No. That's not how that works, Christopher.
Zilfer, we're early today. Alongside Plump Crunchy, Ghost Hunter, Kriegs, Paint Liquor, Haley. Mullets.
Hello.
Mullets. Sugar Rush, what's going on? Rattle Can. Chris is early today. Red Bulls? No, I would never drink an energy drink.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
I could create a planet.
Could you imagine? I have a hard time imagining that.
It's not good.
Yeah, it's like I won't drink them, so Chris can't drink them. That's my thing.
That's your thing?
I won't let you drink it because I know I wouldn't drink one.
What if you drank
I wouldn't
one?
do that to you. I wouldn't do that to you.
Yay! Man, you'd be painting so fast.
No, I know. I don't think I'd be painting at all.
Oh, you don't think so?
No.
They're not. They make me all kinds of jittery.
Yeah, I get headaches and start like seeing through walls and stuff.
Sarcastic Grandpa, happy Friday. Panic Bomb, what's going on? Now, this is going to be wood, right?
Wood!
I like it.
It's going to be...
When does the brown transition happen?
Wood.
That's going to be wild on this.
It's going to be wood.
You already started. What color did you switch to, Jason?
Khaki.
This is khaki?
Khaki.
How man do? What's going on? Yes, khaki. Is that just straight out of the bottle?
Straight
khaki?
out of the... Well, I'm thinning it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
How man do? Got my expert acrylics today. Nice. I'm assuming series 2 or maybe all of them. Ken, what's going on?
Hello.
How we all doing today? I'm cleaning my glasses, so I can't see all of chat right now, but the glasses will come back. Travel Cedric. Krieg says, so, went to my LGS, okay? Good news, they got tons of pro acryl. Even better, store owner is an ex-co-worker fan, a general cool dude, and generally a cool dude. I got along with him. Nice.
That's neat. Like ex-co-worker of yours? Like at a company you guys worked at together?
Yeah, is that...
Very cool.
Store owner is an ex... Oh, that's cool. No, Swifter Bear, he is using khaki right now.
Khaki.
There we go. Yes, November. We started a little early today to let you all funnel in. Jason started painting, and I was writing down all my wacky notes into my little stream log. Boop, 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 boop. We decided to start a little early. Nothing wrong with that. In what world would chat say, we started early, what the heck?
You know chat, exists. Right? I mean, you've met chat before, right? They will turn on you like that.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yes, basically.
Cody Wan Kenobi, that's awesome.
Great.
Any word on restock the sweet spray primer? I think very soon,
I think
right?
It's like next week or the week after.
Keep an eye out. I need to blow my nose. 1 second.
That was like an elephant mating call, dude. Schmert.
Everybody's allergies in Arizona are going off the wacko.
Schmert.
I'm better. Ken, they had a box of the amp set, took a sign to pick it up. Nice. Jesse Who says, it's very important that you guys never start to treat chat as people. We can smell weakness. Jesse Who.
I'm glad you guys admit it. Like that's
your words,
refreshing.
not ours.
That's refreshing that you admit it.
Does Chris have an early bingo game that he needs to go to? No.
Maybe.
I don't play bingo. I don't play games.
Oh, you play games.
Oh, I play games.
Oh, you play games.
Cody Wan Kenobi, excellent. I'm assuming that's how you wrote that.
I love that he's got
excellent.
Excellent.
Ted Onions, when is Chris going to stop teasing us and post OneStep for sale? Ted Onions, mid to late May.
They're starting to fill all of the remaining 6 of the remaining 12 singles on Monday. So It is happening. Chad, it's real.
Craig says, I'm a meat popsicle. Interesting.
That's a Fifth Element reference. Chris probably hasn't seen the Fifth Element.
I actually haven't. Here we go. Let it commence. Oh, great question, D-Fresh. Question, do you think TSA will let paintbrushes go through as a carry-on?
I take them all the time. I always tell people, though, TSA is its own beast at different locations. I have TSA treat me different in every city I fly to. So, but yeah, I take paintbrushes and paints on the plane, so long as you don't take, over whatever their liquid amount is. I've gotten through with a Go Bag Neo filled with 48 paints, brushes, cup, everything except knife. Make sure you don't take your X-Acto knife.
What do you plan on doing with this, sir?
I'm going to build models on the plane. I swear,
building models? That's a likely story.
I swear I'm not going to invade the cockpit area.
M3 Stout says, will the LGSs be getting the first in May before release?
Yes. Yeah, we hope to start shipping to stores, and I don't have an update on this, so I could be lying to you, but I hope that shipments start going out the door the week of the 11th to retailers.
Yeah, Princess Bride is a funny movie.
And then our goal would be the following week to put it on the store here. But that's all up in the air. Anything can change between now and then, but that's our goal.
And we will keep you very posted. If you saw, we're over this week, actually, we're releasing a bunch of OneStep videos, so make sure you go and check out the OneStep page, which is right here. Go check out that page right there, and you'll be able to get all the info. I was let the record show. I am trying to resist the temptation to be silly because I have expunged my 10% fun win-win time. I'm a serious business person today.
Okay. All right.
You like that, Jason?
Okay.
Because whatever Muppet thing you just did right there was almost got it out of me. Kind of like Pee Wee Herman's
whatever Muppet thing you did right there.
Word of the day. Word of the day is bright pale flesh.
It's bright pale yellow,
pale yellow. Sorry.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
I was close. That was a test.
Thank you. That was not clean.
That was a test, and you passed.
That was not close.
That's very boring of you, Chris. Travel Cedric. That's what I'm doing today. Beep boop. Super duper John, rebuilding your streak. Hey, look at all these streaks. Okay, you know what? I'm going to read these because I know people, you love your streaks. Chaos Angel, 80. Ghost Hunter, 60. Cats, 50. Super duper John, 5. Hey, how do you eat an elephant? With a really big stomach and one bite at a time. There you go. Gilborn, hey, 10 stream streak. Yeah, YouTube doesn't get that. I know. It's okay. Travel Cedric, you hit 150 and I didn't announce it? Well, guess what? That was a test and you passed. To remember, 150, you animal. We're so glad you've watched us for 150 days in a row.
That's impossible.
What's going on, Lumberjack?
That kind of madness can't be allowed to exist.
That's good. That's good.
What are you drinking?
Solid water.
Okay. I'll allow it.
He'll allow it. Yes, I am a little early today. Top of the morning. Vanscar? Jason's just painting some wood. And there you go. Enough said.
And there you go.
Now, Jason.
Now, Christopher.
Are you going to glaze? Is the intention is that this is underpainting? And then you're going to glaze over it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember we did a tree.
I'm trying to remember if you glazed over that
I
tree.
airbrushed.
You airbrushed. That's what it was. Okay.
I did the glazing with the airbrush.
Okay. I understand. The antlers kind of hide it sometimes. Those are big antlers.
It's a Boosabu.
No.
Boosabu.
Boosabu. We made that. If you give a Boosabu a paintbrush, he's gonna want to get his wood glazed. But
We were serious a second ago.
I think it's okay. So the books are: if you give a mouse a cookie, if you give a pig a pancake, and then
What?
yeah, have you ever heard of these books?
No.
That's what the title of the stream is today. If you give a Boosabu a paintbrush, he's gonna want a paint cup to wash it with. Have you ever heard these stories, Jason?
No.
So like the idea is that they're old stories where if you give a pig a pancake, he's gonna want some butter, right?
Seems reasonable. Why does the pig have a pancake?
If you give the pig the butter, he's gonna want some milk to drink with the pancake, and then it's just kind of like a whole cycle. They're great. They're great children's books.
I worry for Chris sometimes.
I can't believe you haven't heard if you give a mouse a cookie. Great reads. Lumberjack said, a few times a summer, my boss smokes $800 worth of chicken.
Can you pop close?
Yeah. It's some of the best chicken I've ever had, and I'm stuffed. Okay. If there was no reason to stay, that chicken would be worth retiring from this company. Wow. That's a bold claim. It sounds like a amazing smoked chicken.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking in my life, like, is there any such thing as a chicken that's worth, like, sticking around for like that? And I can't imagine one in my brief time on this rock.
Can you come down a little, Jason?
No, I can't.
There
I can't.
That's perfect.
I can't. I need you. Move your camera.
They made a kids cartoon for them. Yes, I know, Joel B. I grew up on those stories. Chaos Angel did a little cooking last night. Nice. Try to come up with a scheme for Dwagom armor. Okay. Ended up doing special sauce, metallic medium, and the greenish looking wizard's butt. Nice.
Nice.
That's cool.
Very nice.
If you give a nerd some paint, they're going to want a stream to learn from. Thank you, Danger Boy. Now you're getting it.
Dun, dun.
Now you're getting it. Lumberjack's like, you gotta try this chicken. You gots to.
Doesn't sound anything like that.
Fresh, should I put the bottles of paint in plastic bags if I go on an airplane? Just in case they pop, question mark.
Yep. I always put my paint in Ziplocs. If possible. If I don't have Ziplocs, sometimes I've been known to just take and do them in like old Target bags, whatever the bags under the sink are that Jen stores up.
Chuck, what's going on? Like just plastic shopping bags?
Yeah, just whatever plastic shopping bag you've accumulated under the sink. I feel like everybody's got that under the sink shopping bag or in the pantry shopping bag pile. Putting the kind of Tyrannid chitin lining on this. It will act as just a kind of straight wood grain. Very quiet over there, Chris.
Oh, I'm quiet, all right. I'm watching you do this. You called it chitin?
Well, yeah,
Like,
I mean, it's wood armor the way we're doing it, but it feels like a lot like the way they sculpt Tyrannid armor in 40K.
Yeah.
And on them, it would be like chitin, the shell, the bug shell. Called chitin.
Ghost Hunter says, Chris, wood is flesh of dead trees. How does that fact make you feel? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. We kill trees here.
I love this hobby, says Haley, but often feel uninspired and demotivated.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Since I started watching the stream at the end of February, it was motivated me to paint more models in the last 2 months than I had finished in previous 2 years.
Awesome.
I just want to say thank you for the help to reignite my joy for the awesome hobby. Hey,
thank you for tuning in
and
finding more of your light through us. That is amazing.
We love that.
Love it, love it, love it. I love nothing more than being able to help find people's way so that they hobby more.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Very therapeutic. Said it for years. It's something that I wish more people could experience, is just the creative flow of something like, painting miniatures, where it locks you in and takes the world away and lets you kind of focus on something that's cooler. Glad you found us.
Rock says,
Glad you're churning out some product.
Yeah, I mean, heck, if you're doing that kind of painting in the last 2 months, more than you've done in 2 years, that's pretty dang good progress, in my opinion. Rock is saying, speaking of Tyrannid chitin, I'm painting the skeleton of a Leviathan nid. What purple do you recommend for the base? Ooh.
The skeleton
of a Leviathan nid.
What purple do you recommend for the base? I don't know that I'm following. What do you mean?
Layer? Like the base of the chitin, like the layer? Yeah,
Royal or dark is both great. So, kind of, what do you like? Right? I've been really enjoying royal purple when I'm going to want to have, the purple visible.
Okay.
Dark purple becomes a really good shadow, and when you stare at it long enough, you can find the purple in it, but it doesn't have like a real bump of purple to it. Whereas royal purple, like what we're doing here, will always have a little bit more of an impact on it. Right, there we go.
Oh, that's great. Hey, November says, got a OneStep question.
Yeah.
That might be covered with that mixing video I haven't watched yet. Okay. Is there a trick to figuring out what opacity you have to thin down a color to? With non-OneStep, the thumb palette works pretty well, but OneStep is generally so much more volume when wet.
It probably isn't in the mixing video. It'll be in the one about filtering that's coming out, because you're talking about thinning it down like a filter. And, I think 1-to-1 with water, once you have your OneStep set up, is probably a good place to start. That 50-50 mix that we talk about with glazing. It doesn't change with OneStep, although that may not give you as much color as you really want at the end of the day. But I think that's the good place to start.
Going back to Rock, Leviathan Tyrannids are the ones with white flesh and purple chitin. Dark purple seemed a bit too blue for the right tone. I'm mixing some plum and Payne's Gray because I don't have dark plum. Rock. So you still, Rock, if you want to, are you trying to, what part are you're painting there? You might have to clarify that. As the base, right? Dark purple seemed a bit too blue for the right tone.
Yeah, royal purple will give you a little bit more of a reddish purple, so that might be better for you. Dark purple will, like I said, not show as much of the purple, which is really talking about the red. It becomes more of a dark blue shadow than anything else. So that could be the better place to start. Why am I trying to do this with
it's crazy going back to that what I was talking about with my knights, the Knights of the Round Table. I saw quite a few of those recently.
Oh, really?
Yes, by different people. It's very interesting.
I mean, it's a right up front idea.
Oh, it's
it's
great.
something that for nerds is front of mind when doing nights.
Yeah.
You know, I think that
100%.
Like, anytime you've got people who have been in nerddom for a while, they're like, wait a minute, what if I put coconuts on my Bretonians?
Yeah, there's some cool ones. Doghouse picked up the brown earth basing texture to use for my latest Gundam. So better than the other products. A lot less mess and cleanup. Thank you for making the best stuff ever. Can't wait for OneStep and the special sauce.
Thank you.
It's going to be great.
Nothing without you giving it a shot, so thank you.
Lapton Live says, I really like the hue of the fluorescent green for warm green salamanderish colors. What would the fluorescent mix well with special sauce over dark purple primer and taupe zenithal? Does fluorescent paints work well with the special sauce? Yes, if you also looked at how Baby J did his fluorescence with the special sauce, it came out great.
He did some stream time with them.
Yeah.
It worked pretty well.
They were super cool.
Any paint can work with it. Just realize the fluorescents are already pretty translucent. So you probably don't need to mix as much special sauce with them to get the effect you're looking for. But play with it and see. Get it how you like it.
Sniper Corgi says, noticing some of the darker colors tend to be more reflective in quotes or getting washed out on my hobby lamp. Is this normal or am I doing something wrong? Dark Jade is the one of them.
I mean, they shouldn't be. Are you thinning them down aggressively? The more you thin a matte paint, the more it will tend to start to turn more satin. So if you're glazing and layering a bunch, that can happen. Putting a lot of coats on. It could also be that you just haven't shaken the paint up well enough. The matting agent is the part that separates out the worst and needs the shaking up the most. So you can play around with that.
And do the Wizard's butt paints work okay with the OneStep medium? Yes.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, there's nothing special to any of our colors that would make them not. The OneStep medium does not like the washes much.
Why is that, Jason?
They have a different resin in them.
Okay.
And so they tend to want to separate a little bit as you mix them. It can still work, but it's not going to play as well because they're fighting each other for what they want to be doing too. So there's no reason to mix those two together, but I know people are going to do it for some reason.
Avian says, I still say Jason needs to paint a squirrel next. Oh, hi, Jason and Chris in chat. I see what you did there, Avian. I don't think I will try to persuade Jason to paint a squirrel on live internet time.
There we go. Zoom in close.
Yeah, that looks great. Nice. It's very woody.
I like it.
Joel B. I was looking for a good armor color that didn't have too much shine to it. I added a little metallic medium to the graphite gray OneStep, and it turned out perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, graphite gray
that
with
could be really
OneStep medium.
Yeah, that could be really cool.
With the metallic medium, that is cool.
Right, I am going to use the khaki now back over the top of this, I think, as a highlight.
Cody says, have you guys tried to mix the dry pigments with OneStep medium?
No.
I thought you did.
No.
Or was that with Noosh?
Yeah, well, just with varnish.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Is really where those come alive. You're not going to get any benefit from mixing them with OneStep. They're just going to want a varnish, but I mean, you can mix them with OneStep. It isn't going to do much different than it would with glazed wash medium or anything else because you're talking about a very opaque, solid pigment. Yeah. So, you're not going to miraculously turn it translucent like you would with other colors.
Ghost Hunter, in all caps, there's too much fear in the hobby community or this community. You cannot hurt models with paint. Just try things and report back to the hive mind.
That's what we say all the time. Eliminate the fear. Just go for it. You know, nothing's going to blow up in your face if you don't mix things, or you mix things together, don't like it, you know, different resins, different, you know, solvents that you're typically not getting yourself. We don't deal with anything volatile in our hobby, or you shouldn't be, so it shouldn't have any negative untoward effect to, you know, try and mix some stuff. And, you know, you guys and gals are going to think of some things that I wouldn't have even thought of. You know, it would not have crossed my mind to even test pigment powders with OneStep, because that's not what pigment powders are for nor what they do. But, you know, break the rules, go give them a shot, see what happens. It's going to turn the same
interesting
you know, pigment underlayment that you would with other mediums, I think, because the whole thing with mediums like Noosh is that they're specialized to make liquid acrylics do crazy things. And so the impact they're going to have on non-liquid things is minimal. They're just going to act like other, you know, raw mediums.
Let's see. Bald man Chris, you're not bald. And Jason, any needle size you would recommend for priming and base coating? You just use a 3 all the time, right?
All the time.
At 22 psi.
Yep. We don't really change.
Rumpfenstein.
I love it.
Any tips of getting realistic super pale skin like Wednesday Addams pale? Been struggling to find a mix I like.
Watch the thing we did yesterday, because while it's not realistic because we started with purple,
yeah,
you know, so it gets away from, you know, what I would call actual human skin tone. It's a great way to give you the base for pale skin that you can build off of however you want. We did this yesterday. We've been getting a lot of questions about pale skin, and so, you know, doing something like this where I start with purple versus keeping all of the, you know, the peach yellows, you know, and pinks and more traditional flesh, is where I go. You know, you can make this look paler too by just taking your highlight further and not leaving the darker, you know, dark flesh type shadows showing.
Wad says, I'm going to mix special sauce with mustard.
Go for it.
What?
Hey,
don't do that.
Hey, man, you know what? Just let them be themselves.
I won't. We do not condone that behavior. That was a test, and you failed, Wad.
What are you people thinking?
You failed miserably. Lumberjack says, maybe glaze bright, warm gray over the purple skin from yesterday. Oh, that could be interesting. Bright, warm gray will definitely make it deader looking, paler. Watt says, okay, Mom. Well, I'm not your mother. Papa Chicken says, you should never marry a tennis player. Love means nothing to them.
This is our life.
That one is very unique.
No, it's
Papa
not.
Chicken.
That's not the right word. That's not the word you were searching for.
These aren't the Boosabus you're looking for.
This is not the boost. These are not the Boosabu you are looking for.
Kogata says, do you thin your paints at all for airbrushing? If so, what's your ratio roughly?
Yeah, depends. I typically will thin more as I'm going into my blends and my highlights. So base coats, typically no. Midtones, depends. And then highlights I start to thin. And when I thin, I mean, I always just kind of say 50-50
Yeah.
as a start. I don't really think about it too much. You just have a feel for where a particular color and paint is going to do what it needs to do for you. And with the airbrush, the nice thing is that you can constantly be layering up, right? When you're airbrushing, you've got the ability to do multiple layers over a spot with just making a couple of extra passes. And so you can over thin and still come back and get what you need. So I'm not really ever super worried about mixes. But I would say 50-50 is the place that I tell people that is pretty comfortable to start from.
Sigavac says, I stole my wife's unused blush brushes. They're a bit stiffer. Also, some knockoffs from Amazon. I got my numbered Adepticon AO brushes and scared to use them.
Use them.
That's what they're for.
Use your brushes. What you spent money on them for? Why are you getting other ones?
Yeah, I would.
Use your brushes. You can't hurt them.
No matter what, if they're expensive, that's the whole point of buying the brush, right?
Use your brushes. Stop
Get
being
dirty.
Fearful. Stop being fearful. Use them.
You get in there, Sigavax, and you just get in there, you. That's what I would say to you.
100%.
Hey, and by the way, thank you for that 70 stream streak, Sigavax.
Awesome.
Danger Boy says, the Dauntless brushes became my good brushes, and I don't feel bad, but I love to use them. Danger Boy, I am the exact same way.
Yep.
You can clean them after every session, but the value is incredible when you start cleaning your Dauntless brushes. We recommend cleaning after every session, right, Jason?
Yes. What he said. Yeah, sure.
After every session, every single day, right?
Do that. Do what Uncle Chris just told you.
I ain't your uncle. Monkey's your uncle. Oops.
Why is it the choking child all the time? What are you...
Just scale them down in your slicer and you can make them whatever size you want. Plum Crunchy says, yeah, but none of the Pro Curl tube size. What are you asking, Plum Crunchy? Did I miss your question? Restate it if you have one. Mullet says, I'm painting some Dark Angels for Kill Team. Great questions today. And I don't have a transfer sheet, so I'm diving into freehand symbols. Yikes.
Nice.
That's scary, but cool. Honestly, I'm rather scared of messing everything up. Any tips on freehanding for a first timer? It scares me. Jason, take away my fear. Take away my fear of freehanding. How do I
I've shown it a bajillion times on stream. Just really the key is breaking it down into its component shapes. So for Dark Angels, painting the angel and the wings is going to be something that you do a lot, right? And so, get the design and look at the pattern and figure out, okay, well, what does this thing need to look like if I break it down into a series of rectangles and spheres and squares and whatever shapes I need to get the point across, to make it easier for you to freehand it. Because if you try to freehand an angel, that's going to be daunting for people that may not even really draw much, right? And freehanding is drawing with paint. I'm really digging this.
Yeah, it's looking good.
So, being able to take the design and get a plan of attack that knocks it down into shapes. Give me a second, and I'll pull out a magic card and I'll show you something.
A magic card?
Not a magic card. A magic card.
It's magic.
There you go. Wood armor. Hard to see with the horns, but I'm digging that. And that pulls us into where he'll fit with this. We haven't done the final highlight on this guy, so this wood on here is more done than this guy is. All right, so let's grab a card and a drawing utensil. We have all sorts of. We have a beep beep. It's a Jeep. All right, so let's take the angel or dark angels.
Yeah.
And for example, like the head would be a triangle, the hooded head.
Yeah.
Right. And then you would have a small rectangle or square for the head, and then probably a long rectangle for the body, right? And then you've got 2 triangles off to the side for the arms, and then they come together in the middle and hold a sword. I don't know how intricate you're trying to be, but the dark angels have the hands are all here in the middle, and they hold a sword, which is again a triangle this way, and then a triangle for the point. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And depending, I think you may add triangles here for it being a robe. I don't remember what it is like. Right. So, and then you'd have the rectangles here for the arms coming across if you were doing that. Okay. So that's a very quick zoom in.
Yeah.
That's a really quick way to create a design that would be like that guy. Then the wings, as I draw the wing, I would say that I can't remember if they curve. I think they do, right? So this is the only real hard part here is when you do wings and you have a curve. Curves are tougher to deal with, right? But if we come up, well, I messed those up, but here we go, something like that. Make them match. And then I would typically just go ahead and if it were, like I think the wing kind of does like this and then end. This is going to be the hardest thing that you have to do really is create the shape of the wing. Right? I'm not looking at it right now, so I don't know. Where do I have one? I got dark angles someplace. Are you doing 40K? This 40K is easier than this. This is the 30K one with all the complexity. The 40K one, when you have like that, that's even easier.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Because then you just have the sword that is the triangle, right?
Yeah.
With a rectangle and a rectangle for the hilt, and then a triangle for the point of the blade, right?
Yeah.
And then they do this thing where it comes up like this, and then it just has a couple of rectangles. Oh. There's a couple of rectangles that come out here, basically. And then another one that's here that's a little bit shorter. And then one that is like usually down here that does that, right? And then you just fill that in. And then just duplicate it on the other side. So if you're doing that 40K pauldron deal, then it's really just that, right? But you get the idea is break it down. Don't try to think about painting a sword. I just showed you with, 4 shapes, 2 rectangles and 2 triangles, you get a sword.
Yeah.
And then with 3 rectangles and a little curve here to link them all, you get the wing the way that they do it. And you could add, if you wanted these to be the pointy ones, you could add little triangles on the outside here too, or paint it like that. Whatever you wanted.
There you go. Cool.
That's the way you do all of your freehand is break the image down into, constituent geometric shapes that then you can paint those easier. And then as you get better, you can go back in and detail the crap out of that. Like you can have it look like you didn't start with these shapes at all. You can make it look 3-dimensional and non-metallic and all sorts of stuff.
Be right back, Jason.
What do you got to do?
I have to pee.
My God, man.
My God, man.
We gotta fix Chris.
I've been drinking a lot of water. Actually, here, before I go, let me read this one. Sigavax, on another note, had a pretty rough couple weeks. Most of my team was let go at work, and it hits the feels.
Yeah, that's
My wife surprised me with 3 really nice MCP affiliation boxes today. Nice. First time she's ever went into a hobby store. Shout out to my 12-year-old for showing her the ropes. Nice. Hey, sorry to hear that, but it sounds like there's some silver lining there.
Yeah, I hate to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Why is Jason leaving the hat forward?
Oh, I can.
There it is. That's what the what is it? The cool kids do.
Yes. And I am nothing if not a cool kid. We need to come up with a sound that we play every time Chris has to depart for the bathroom. Like a secret button that I have that we can just press. Every time he says, I'll be right back. Taking some orange, some red orange here. I'm wanting to play with how this red will look. I went to orange red. Now we're doing red orange. Those two colors play super well together, so I'm anxious to see how that'll look next to this wood. Now that we have the wood kind of dialed in with its coloring, I think that's going to be the perfect way to highlight that red sash or harness or whatever it is. He doesn't wash his hands. He's back too fast. He can't possibly wash his hands. I'm with you on that one. Yesterday was the key. He just was gone and then he was back, and I was like, I don't buy any of that. There's no way that happened that fast. Didn't your mom teach you anything? When his mom is here on Mother's Day stream, oh boy, he's got some explaining to do. Mama Masushi, you got some explaining to do.
Your hat is silly.
This is me in my natural habitat.
What's What are you talking about with my mother? Sack-filled Bagginses.
He's got some explaining to do.
For what?
On Mother's Day.
For what?
For not teaching you to use the bathroom before you leave the house.
I'm drinking water.
And?
I'm staying hydrated. I drink a lot of water, Jason.
I think chat was questioning more the fact that you don't wash your hands afterwards.
I wash them every time. I know my truth.
I like that a lot. With a little bit of orange on the top there, that kind of pulls it all together. I like the way the wood's looking. I like wood armor. He's going to look great with wood armor. It's going to be an absolute pain in the took us to do it, but
why do you do this to yourself?
We're going to make it happen. So don't ask questions.
That's not a bad thing.
Don't ask questions like that.
Why do you do this to yourself?
Why do you ask me questions like that?
Jason, in your most infinite wisdom right now, speak to the youth about painting. Could you do that for me?
What would you... Youths of the day.
Yeah.
Fellow youths.
Okay. What's your advice to the youth today?
Oh, God, you don't want me talking to young people. I'm crotchety old man yells at clouds.
You say that, but you're not that.
Oh, I am.
I dismiss that.
Oh, I am that.
I dismiss that.
I am that.
Don't talk about Jason that way.
Oh, that's who I am.
Chris, don't let the delinquent youth talk to you like that. Yeah, I know. Oh, what was I going to ask you?
I don't care.
Jason's spicy. Yesterday and today, man. I don't know what happened. Did somebody shoot in your Wheaties?
Shoot in my Wheaties?
Shite in your Wheaties?
Oh my god, dude. This is my life.
Jason,
this is my life.
I need a good...
I was at home with the dogs. The dogs are cool. I come here. This is what I get.
You could have stayed home, Jason.
No, I can't. I could technically, right?
You could. You could have stayed home and streamed from home.
I don't want to do that. Camera. I don't like my camera.
You should invite me over.
I have.
I haven't seen it on my calendar invite.
Oh my god. OMG, chat.
I'm just saying, my man. We help you fix that. Jason, I think I need to adjust your camera.
Yeah, you do.
It's a little too low, I think. Because right there, it looks like the natural place. I'm going to bring it up a little. We're going to do this.
You've been saying this. Hey, chat. Can I get a over-under on how many times I've replied back to Chris's, can you come down a bit to why don't you raise your camera up?
I know.
What's the over-under on that?
Can you scoot this little pad of yours forward?
Can we... He's asking, he is interrupting everything right now.
Yeah.
I just...
I want to make sure you're comfortable.
Oh my god.
Truly, yeah. How's that?
I mean, I'm painting it. Everything's good.
Hey, you feeling bad?
Can you hear him? It's really horrible having to listen to
How's
this.
How's that look, Jason? You feel good right there? I feel good. All right, earthquake. Looks great. Okay, so much better. I wish you would just move the camera. You're gonna miss me when I'm gone, Jason.
You're not going anywhere.
Oh, I'm going places. Jason, I actually do have a serious question.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I am looking to paint a troll, right?
You're asking me, right? I don't know.
Yes. What's with this tone?
Why do you ask me, right? I'm painting a troll, right?
Jason?
Do I know?
Jason?
If I knew, you wouldn't be asking me a question.
Jason
I don't know.
HBDC craze. I'm painting a troll.
Okay, good. There you go. That's called a statement.
Painting a troll.
Okay.
Now, I'm going for... Give me a minute. Everybody hang on to your butts. Hold on. Wait right there, Jason, okay?
There you go. Dark gray blue over royal purple. It's good. It's very good.
What kind of workup could I get for this style of skin? What paints do you think I need? So for all of you who
Dark
don't know...
jade, light jade for the skin.
Jade?
Yeah, you could mix in turquoise into it too, because it trends a little bit blue, more so than green.
Yeah.
Right? And then that's all like pale yellows, khakis.
Gotcha.
Whites added in. Ivory, pale yellow, khaki.
Got it.
He's looking at the standard stone troll from GW.
Yeah, like for the Age of Sigmar gets, but I've got some trolls I'm painting for Blood Bowl.
Faded Ultramarine.
Faded Ultramarine.
Wah, 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 wah,
I'm so
wah.
faded. I'm not. There we go.
Mix these 50-50.
Esfa says, Chris, can you rant for a second about the kind of lens you have on this camera and why it's special for the focal window or whatever? You've mentioned it before. Yes, they're called...
Parfocal lenses.
Yeah, so when you have a parfocal lens, I can zoom in and zoom out, right? So you can see this, and it doesn't lose focus. On a typical lens, typical photography lenses, they don't have the ability to do that because their elements don't work like that. So, and these are T-value. These are true cinema lenses, because when you do rack focuses, you don't want to lose the effect of your distance, but you still want to stay in focus. And it gives you a parallaxing kind of effect. Plus, for miniature painting, wherever Jason is, right, I can zoom in and zoom out digitally, but still keep the focus. Plus, he has to be a certain amount of feet away from this for me to zoom in from where the ceiling is. So right now, if he got closer to the camera, it wouldn't be in focus because it needs to be a minimal focal distance of 3.5 feet. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in focus. So like when you see him put the bottle way, way up there, or you see me jokingly try to put something up at the lens, that's why it's not. Because also Jason paints way far out, right?
I keep the model at the desk level,
which is
great. Some people bring the model to them when they paint. I keep the model at the
which
desk.
Is
it's
great.
Just years and years of doing the stream is the only reason I do that way.
Which is great for us because then I can adjust focus and just zoom depending on the model, right? This allows us to zoom way out if need be, or to zoom way in if need be. There you go. Now at home, depending on what your home setup looks like, it's totally different. All lenses would be considered different for whatever space you're in. No, actually, these are not wide angles at all. We have a lot of millimeters on these. The thing that makes them very unique is that their minimal focal distance is very, very short for the distance right now. Because at 125 millimeter lens on a micro four thirds is 250 millimeters. So it's a pretty unique situation here. Lapton Live, can you explain to us again what are the pros and cons of using natural versus synthetic brushes? What are the differences between Dauntless or Pro Synthetic? How does the handmade part upgrade them, etc.?
Boy, that's a lot.
What's the difference between natural and synthetic? I think that's the
well.
main
So
question.
Synthetic is plastic. Natural can be made from any animal hairs. Animal hairs have their own properties. Not all of them are the same. So saying you have a natural hair brush doesn't mean anything. It's what the hair is that means something. In our hobby, you're talking about weasel hair and primary Mustela kalinsk or Mustela sibirica, which is red sable / Kalinsky sable, comes from the same animal. And so you're talking about that weasel that comes from that area of Siberia, China, Russia, Far East. And other things that you might see in the hobby would be like goat, synthetic goat, maybe some squirrel, horse and camel, not really, but there's probably something out there that uses it, but it's usually sable and then synthetics. The synthetics are going to have what we call more snap because plastic retains a memory. So it is always trying to get back to its natural shape, right? Whereas regular hair does not have that same component, right? Like your hair doesn't. If you lay on it, it'll freak out, and when you get up, you have bedhead. It doesn't want to naturally just lay itself back down.
Yeah.
Synthetics want to lay themselves back down until they've been bent so much, like your credit card, right? If you bend your credit card, it wants to go back to flat, but if you bend it enough, then it stays wherever it got bent because now it has fatigue along a bend. And so then the memory is including the fatigue. So that's why synthetic brushes will curl over time if you're not careful. If you always paint with them in the same or similar direction, then it gets used to the bend of the tip. The bend becomes fatigued, and then the plastic keeps the fatigue as part of its shape, and you'll never be able to straighten it out. Even if you melt it back to straight or whatever, it'll always constantly deform again. So, but when it comes to synthetic versus sable, particularly, the quality of synthetic has gotten to a point to where, like, our Pro Synthetic will draw and release paint as reliably as a sable will. Our Dauntless is very close to that. And so they act like a sable as far as like how it feels to paint with them. from just a dip it in the paint, put the paint on the model. Now, if you have a heavier hand pressure when you paint so that you press harder with the brush, a synthetic will typically splay the tip quicker, meaning that under pressure, a synthetic will flatten out and lose its point, right? So if I have a dagger point, I can press and see how it starts to spoon immediately, even when I'm not really bending it that far, because it is stiffer. So under that stiffness, the tip will spread as it gets pressure on it. Whereas a sable is not as prone to doing that. So a sable, when I press on it, I can press a lot more before I start to see, like there, now I start to see it squaring off.
Yeah.
And that's, nearly 90 degrees or, 60 degrees or something like that. Right. So a sable being more flexible will help you if you press harder with your brush when you paint. Because it will allow you to do detail and still press harder. Now, I always tell you, stop doing that. Learn how to paint with variable hand pressure so that you can go very delicate when you need to do light details and heavy when you need to put on lots of paint, or heavy when you want to make a specific big texture, right? Like sponge painting and all that wants a heavier hand on it. So, you're going to want to play around with being able to vary the weight of your pressure that you're putting on the model so that as you're doing so, you can make the brush do what you want. That's why I can paint with any brush. They don't make a difference to me, really. I've been painting with our sables because we started making our own sables in-house. And so I've been using those. And as a test. So I've got, the first of the US made pro sables that I've been painting with. And they've been great. So that's usually why you see me painting with a particular brush, is that we're testing or whatever. But I'm typically a synthetic guy. I love synthetics because of the snap. They go back to being a straight brush. So when they bend, right. So it's straight, and then if I and then look at it, it's still straight. Right. Whereas a sable, right, starts, well, that one didn't even start straight, right? Straight, and then I go bah, and then it's not straight. It has a bend to it. Right. So natural hair will take longer to get back to where it is center and straight, and that's why you'll wind up pulling it, on your palette a lot. And so for me, when I'm doing a lot of texture, it's just easier with a synthetic because all of my lines will start and stop in the same place, whereas with a synthetic, they will start and stop in various places as the brush deflects. But I paint with both. So really, it comes down to your personal preference, what feels better for you, what do you build a technique with, where's your comfort zone? I would tell you that you will be best served to get used to something like our Pro Synthetic, because over time, the one thing I can guarantee is there will be a day when there are no sable brushes. And so if you can get used to enjoying synthetic brushes, then you can also enjoy sable brushes while you can get them. But the price is only going to continue to skyrocket, and eventually they're not going to be available.
Just as because of what?
There's just too much in the world that's moving towards stopping trapping animals or making it such a high tax, or the fact that it's China and Russia are the only countries where they come from. They'll just stop exporting them. China has started trying to sell sable brushes, and I don't know many Chinese manufacturers that make a pure sable brush. They blend them all the time.
Right.
And so they'll blend them with some synthetic to fill them out because it's very expensive to put that much sable in a brush.
Right.
So you'll still pay the same amount because they want your money, but they give you an inferior brush. That brings us to automated versus handmade brushes. And when you're using a machine to roll the filament and a machine to insert it into a ferrule,
right.
And we use machines to crimp the ferrule to the brush, and we use machines to print the handle, but we don't use machines to roll the filament and to build the bundle and to shape the brush and to then put it into the ferrule. That's all done by hand by people that have been doing it for decades.
Yeah.
Which is why we run out of brushes, because we can't just make more. Right, we're kind of at the top end of what we can produce with our current situation, and we can't just make more. That's why we brought them stateside, so that hopefully we can pick up production. But it's hard because it's still a very artisanal method of manufacture,
right.
And it makes it very difficult to just say, oh, we're going to double the amount of brush production we have this year, because there aren't many master brush makers coming out of school in Europe. Europe's the only place with schools for them, and there just aren't very many people doing that. There's not a big livelihood attached to making brushes anymore. And so that's tough. But handmade is always going to be your better bet. It doesn't mean you won't find problems with handmade. Humans make mistakes, but machines will definitely do it quicker, make more volume, and have lower quality control. We try to stand behind all the products we sell, and our Dauntless brushes are machine made, which makes it to where we can bring the cost down and offer a more affordable brush set. But they will have problems quicker than the handmade ones.
Yeah.
You're weighing up earlier whether to get some Pro Synthetics with your next paint restock. It's a very good reason to have access to Pro Synthetic brushes. Yeah.
Yeah, and don't sleep on our Dauntless brushes. They're freaking amazing
Dauntless
for what they
good.
are.
Yeah. Dauntless are very good. Oh, yeah, synthetic. So it's been a long time. The synthetic bad mentality comes from decades ago when synthetic brushes were simply nylon. And maybe a couple
Simply
of polyurethane
nylon.
or no, not polyurethane. I'm completely forgetting what the other synthetic is.
Not polyester.
Polyester.
Oh, yeah. It is polyester.
And polyesters. Okay. So when we have the just a nylon brush, so that's why I always say if you see a brush that's simply white. They call them Ghost, or I'm not trying to call anybody out by brand, but the GW pure white synthetic brushes that are super cheap, stay away from them like the plague. Nylon is horrible for painting. It doesn't draw or release paint in a consistent manner. If you adjust your pressure on the brush as you're painting with a nylon brush, you'll see it kind of pool more paint on and off. It's more like not mechanical. It's more like a calligraphy pen, where a good calligraphy pen, if you've ever played with a metal nibbed calligraphy pen, the real good expensive, and they get into hundreds of dollars. The real good ones, you can alter the pressure to thicken and thin the line out, and they never give you blotches of ink as they do so.
Right.
The cheaper the calligraphy pen is, the cheaper steel they use on the tines, and when the tines spread, they burp ink out if you press too hard too fast, and so they don't have the flexibility. That's what nylon brushes do. They will kind of burp paint out and give you inconsistent lines. So I say in the synthetic world, stay away from nylons, which is, it's hard to tell you. The one thing I can guarantee is anything that's pure white, stay away from it. And then anything else is hard because we color the other stuff to make it look like it's natural hair. So it's tough to tell, but
Uncle Dizzle.
You've had really bad experience with art store brushes? What do you mean by art store brushes?
Maybe the big thick ones. Maybe those are nylon brushes. What you're talking about? They might be.
Again, I can't tell. The bulk of the brush painting world for artist brushes is made out of factories that don't care about the quality. They care about quantity, because they're making the bulk of their brushes for bulk sale, like schools and places that need tons of it, and so that's always an issue.
Yeah.
Like I said, the brush world is an old world manufacturing world, and if you are making huge quantities, quality control is almost impossible, because it doesn't start with a good brush maker. A good brush maker can only, I mean, think of it. If you're the best at what you do, if you're the best welder on the planet, I always come back to welding.
Yeah.
But if you're the best welder on the planet, you can only weld so much. And it doesn't matter how many journeymen you have underneath you until they get to be at your level. You can't just do double, triple, quadruple the amount that you could do and expect that what your journeymen or your apprentices do will be equal quality. And that's where we are with brushes. And so, you can't have that many people doing it. Master's Touch from Hobby Lobby can be good and can be bad. They're all over the place. They're just variety. I've had some that have lasted a long time, and some that are just like, boop. Jason, can you fund sable stem cell research to grow sable hairs in a lab? The dry brushes, like the DD brushes that we do, are synthetic goat.
Yeah, ours are the pure white is what Jason. Those nylon ones, you can tell a huge difference.
These are synthetic too, but when you really look at them, they're like a natural white. They're not that snow white color. Yeah. These are synthetic goat hair. Right, and they are polyesters and are really good. They're not as strong overall, because they're super soft. So you will notice that they at the tips will start to fuzz out quicker than a normal brush because they're softer. So, but that's the brush. That's the way the brush works. Our standard DA dry brushes are the same as the Pro Synthetic as far as the hair. when making a brush, how do you gauge it's a size 1 or a size 3? It's always the amount of hair that you pull out to roll into the bundle is what dictates the size. How a manufacturer names it is just based on their own thoughts. We're all over the place. Our 1 is like other people's 0. We typically, our size ranges 1 step down from what other people's would be, I think.
Okay, gotcha.
That's not always the case. But with the other big high-end art brush manufacturers, you know, the Winsor Newtons, the Da Vincis, the Rosemaries, the you name it, Artist Opus, because they're Rosemary, I believe. You're going to find that our brush size 2 is probably a 1 to theirs. Our 3 is probably a 4 to theirs. Or, what am I saying?
Not sure.
No, our 3 would be like their 2.
Oh, okay, I see.
Right? We're a number up.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Else. Okay.
You love sable brushes, but as an animal lover, it sucks that they're so good. Guess I'm a hypocrite. I don't know. I mean, you know, you're only a hypocrite if you go out and say don't kill animals for their products, but then you're not eating beef or wearing leather or all that stuff. You know, sable is a kill animal. It's not a trap and shave type of thing. It's not like getting wool from sheep. They kill the animal. Just got into the Pro Curl range and I absolutely love them. Thank you. You love the undertones you did for the skin, and this is your... Oh, nice. What do you recommend for painting Vastor the Archifane? That's a big mechanical demon thing, right?
I think so.
In 40K? I mean...
That purple you did yesterday would probably be cool for him, right?
I mean, I would go to town if he has fleshy bits. Does he still have fleshy bits?
I don't know. Let's look at that model.
If he has fleshy bits, yeah, I would do the thing that we did yesterday on stream. We showed you how to very quickly... This is a 3-color combo that you can do starting with Royal Purple...
this is that guy. Okay, I know. He's
So if he has like flesh on the arms, I think. Yeah.
That would be
great.
Perfect.
Yeah, this would be great.
That's a wacko looking model, man.
And this is really not underpainting. This is just using the same style of layering you would do for Caucasian flesh and swapping your colors out to royal purple, beige red, and then olive flesh, I think is what I used. You know? And so you still get some liveliness to it, the pinkishness from the beige red, but the pale quality from the olive flesh over the top, and the purple gives it that, you know, kind of undeath, not well, chaos warp, you know, the oh God, see a doctor part that you're always looking for. Right, I need to do some white blue.
How do you recommend when you use your synthetic and pro brush sets?
Whenever you have the right size. We make different sizes in most of them, so we do that so that you always have, you know, you can switch off to a bigger size. If you need a size 6, you're only going to get a size 6 from the pro synthetics. Because a pro sable wouldn't make sense for what we do to have a sable size 6 most times. I can't think of a time where that would be something you'd care to have.
I think also just because there's a couple comments of fear of using your brush, but that's what they're for, right? I would just implore you guys to use them, right?
Heck yeah,
that's what they're for. You purchase them, use the tool, have fun with them, take care of them. Don't take care of them. Do what you want.
Well, that's the thing. If you wash your brushes, there's really nothing. A lot of people, you know, like I said, it's the same thing that people say synthetics are bad. Grow up, use a sable, blah, blah, blah. Like, I paint some amazing models, all synthetic. It's not a matter of the brush type. It's your control with it and your comfort level with it. And you can paint with whatever. You can paint with cheap dollar store brushes if you get good at it. You're always going to be adjusting your technique for the horrible tool you're using. So I don't recommend doing that, but I know people that use the cheapest brushes they can find and paint with them. Some of my friends that are some of the greatest canvas painters I've ever known in my life paint with the worst, absolute worst brushes you can imagine. Because they just have gotten to the point where they don't care. Their style doesn't require it, right? They're not painting teeny details like we are, so they don't really care. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where at the end of the day, use what feels good.
Yep.
And gives you the output that you're looking for. That's going to be the key. But the whole synthetics bad thing is not true. You know, there are bad synthetics. There are horrible sables. You know, like sables from China.
Yeah.
Are horrible.
And they're not true sables. They're blended.
Yeah, I have never seen a factory. I've had to call them out on it. We've had factories send us saying, hey, we'd love you to use our sables from China. And we go and test them, and they're like synthetic blends, or they're not sable at all. They're like something like, I don't know, horse or ox or something. I don't know. I'm not familiar with what all the animal hairs do because we only use sable and synthetic. So
yeah, and Ken says, all right, I'll use them tonight. You guys are right. Use the tool. Don't just have them as decor. Yeah.
Yeah, because remember, you know, a lot of
goop.
people say, oh my gosh, I shouldn't use my sables for painting with metallics. And that's not true at all either. You know, use them for painting with whatever you want. There's no reason not to paint with metallics. Just make sure that you clean them afterwards.
Well, and heck,
the only thing that I say as a rule is do not use the same brush to paint different solvent types.
What do you mean? Just like
don't use a brush to paint with oils and enamels and acrylics. If you're painting with oil washes and things like that, or you're using Dirty Down or something else that has a heavier solvent in it, do not use that same brush for your acrylics. That's the only hard, fast rule there is don't mix your brushes for solvent type.
Your boy says, I got 2 packs of Dauntless, and it was the best thing for me. After that, I was willing to use the rest of my tools.
Good.
And you can clean them, too. If you have our goop, Jason shows cleaning brushes all the time. He just showed that the other day. You can just take the time and clean your brushes, too.
Yeah, they are a tool. You got to take care of it, right?
Yep. Jimmy the Saint was saying, okay, so that purple workup was royal purple, olive flesh, and what was the other one?
Great question.
It was beige red for the skin tone, the Caucasian skin tone on
beige red. Yeah. Houdini says, you can clean them? I just buy new ones.
I mean, that's up to you. Yes.
To whom's their own?
The capitalist in me says never worry about cleaning your brushes, just buy more that are disposable.
To Tom's their Lee.
But the reality is,
clean them.
You want to clean your brushes and get the most out of them.
In our goop, like I said,
they will last a ton longer if you take care of them. Even synthetics. You know, there's
Sir Blaine,
no world where
we did that the other day. We don't typically designate streams to cleaning brushes, but you can watch this video, which is right here. Great segue. Hold. Let me find it. Here it is. Jen did a great video on that, which is right here. Do you have any suggestions for a color to bridge the gap from dark magenta, dark warm flesh? Mainly trying to avoid my skin looking too red or too yellow, and think maybe a color between them is the answer.
I would mix them. Right? You always have the color in your hands. When you're staring at two colors and you need to figure out a way to bridge the gap and blend between them, mix them 50-50. That's always the answer. That's always the best answer. There isn't a color in our line that would equal that. So you're going to need to make that. But that's the answer.
That's a good answer, Jason.
Yeah, remember that a lot of the way I teach painting is based on 2 colors equal 3. And when you take that mentality, your whole collection of color becomes way more powerful.
Yep. He cleaned your brush a couple streams ago, like what Lumberjack was saying. I think it was, when did you clean that brush?
It was like 3 days ago, beginning of the week, maybe. It was when we went long. Because I said, Chris, you can stay.
Oh, April 21st. Go watch that. At the end of April 21st stream, plus I just linked Jen's brush cleaning video. That one, watch that. It's essentially what Jason does every time. And hey, look at that. Studio J7. Welcome in, Raiders.
Studio.
We appreciate that raid. Welcome in, everybody. We're painting up some Conquest, a Boosabu.
We're hunting for what we're going to do, our non-metallic metal, silvery, ethereal armor like on this weird mask.
What's going on, Studio J7? Thank you so much for that raid, man.
On the Boosabu.
We appreciate you. The Boosabu.
How you doing, studio? Got to see him a bit at Adepticon. If only for a minute, and on the escalator a lot of the time. Taking the white blue and glazing it into every crack and crevice on the brighter side of the mask so that I can start to get that contrast built up from one side to another.
Studio says, all good here, thanks, sir. And yes, we passed many times on that escalator.
Every time I would look around, I'd be like, hey, fancy meeting you here again.
We appreciate that, Raid, and welcoming everybody.
Hello, everybody.
We're hanging out.
Having a great Friday. Holy cow, it's the end of the week. How's that even happen?
This week, been a busy one. A lot going on.
A lot going on, yes.
First time chat, Mad Cuz says, hello, all first time chatter here. Welcome in.
Hello.
Appreciate it. How do you people go over the fear of messing up on the mini? Oh man, my favorite minis are Phoenix Lords from Eldar, but I just am afraid that it would mess up. So how does one get over the hump? And I'm assuming it's easy as a part of painting them. LOL. Mad, that is an amazing question.
Yeah, I don't know that easy is the right term. It should be easy, and it becomes easier the more you just give in to the fact that you can't mess it up, right? You can be displeased with the outcome of something you try. You cannot mess it up. I can mess up changing the brake rotors on my car. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I can mess that up.
Yeah.
To a point where somebody's like, yeah, you need to take that to the shop, right?
Yeah.
You are not going to mess this model up. This is not, brain surgery. You're not going to lose a patient on the table. You're not going to have the heart monitor go flat and scare everybody in the operating room. You're literally going to be disgruntled because you're going to put the brush on the model and not be happy with the outcome. And you're going to be like, well, damn, that didn't work or look like I wanted it to. And guess what you can do?
Start over, reprime.
Paint over it. You don't even have to reprime. You just paint over it.
That's true.
Yeah. Like, who cares? It really does take you getting to that point. And sometimes that's really hard because you're painting models that you spent hundreds of dollars on and brushes you spent. We were just talking about brushes before you guys rated in. And, when you have an expensive $30, $40 Sable brush and you leave it in the package for 2 years, the one thing I can guarantee you is, yeah, you've missed messing up your brush, but you've also missed the opportunity to paint with a great tool that would have helped you grow your hobby. Yeah. And so don't hide away from just putting paint on the model. Try it. We sell a line of models, a little bit of harmless marketing plug here. We sell a line of models that we call our texture trainers. And these are 3D printed busts that we make. They're only one-sided, right? So the back side is flat. So they're built to hold in your hand while you paint. You don't have to have a stand for them or anything. And they really let you focus on just what you can see. The Krone has a little bit of wing on the back, and they all have like the back of the gun and stuff. But you don't have to focus on anything other than what you can see. These are great. They're like $25. You can get one, and you can paint this thing a million times. They're built to be different, not only different themes, but just a lot of different materials. So you can say, hey, I want to paint and practice my metallic, so I can grab the one with the axe and the armor, or my leather and the leather armor, or skin on all of them, or whatever you want to do, blue jeans, or, we've tried to put enough things on here that you have stuff to paint. Like, hey, I'm having a hard time trying to paint metallics, or I want to try non-metallic metal. We got the solution. Something like this that costs you $25 that you can paint over and over and over and over and over again and not feel bad about it. And then when you nail it is something that's great to have around. They come with a little plinth and you can set them on them. But I love stuff like that. Always have a model, even if it's maybe you are running Space Marines and they force you to buy 10 Terminators so you can run 7. And so you got 3 Terminators left on the sprue. Build one of them. Put it on your desk and have it next to you so that you can have a model like this, right? That will always look like a clown suit because it's where we use it to show people stuff on stream. How do you do this thing on stream, or show off some new color paint we're working on, or a mix, or how to airbrush, or whatever. Have this model by your desk and always keep it so that you can try there before you go onto the surface you're concerned about. Especially when people come in like earlier and ask about, hey, I'm painting Dark Angels and I want to get some help on how to freehand because I don't have any decals. And you're like, okay, Well, that can be really scary because freehand is only really scary because you can mess your whole model up because it's done at the end, right? It's done when you're finished. You've done everything else, and now you got to paint the little ultramarine symbol on the shoulder pad. And so it's really scary because, oh God, if I mess this up, my beautiful model's done. So practice it on a model you don't care about. So always have a handful of models you don't care about. Oh, we all have them in our pile of shame. Just build it, do it, stop being lazy, and don't be afraid to practice on something first.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that's totally it. On the topic of brushes, when do you know when it's time to swap out airbrush nozzles or needles?
Typically not until you have a known problem like a bend in your needle.
I mean, they last for a long time. I don't see. I guess if you bend it, maybe.
Yeah, usually a bend, right? You've dropped it, it's bent. You were cleaning it wrong or something happened and they got a bend in the needle or something. That's when you have to replace them. And you don't always have to replace the nozzle when you buy a new needle. If the company you're buying from has just needle kits for the same nozzle size, then you can keep going with that.
Sith Ice, first time chat from the raid. Welcome in. You can still varnish before trying the freehand. Oh, you can still varnish before trying that freehand? Oil paints can still work there if you don't thin them too much.
I mean, I would not freehand with oils, but you're welcome to if what you're trying to do is say you're trying to build something where you can go back and fix it if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Oils are a little bit more tolerant with that, so that could be a thing if that's what you're trying to say. I would not freehand with oils.
And when are we restocking brush sets?
Oh boy. We have a lot of the brush singles still. Brush sets are still probably month and a half out. Maybe not for sables. I don't know. We're working on it really hard to get our brush production up to speed here so we can turn out more, and I can probably put a few hundred sets in stock coming up pretty soon. But we can't guarantee it.
And remember, you can get our discount you can build your own brush set as well.
Yeah, once you put 4 brushes in your cart, if you buy singles, then you get the discount that is the same as buying the brush set. So, but if we don't have that one size, because usually it's the most popular sizes that go out that keep the sets from being in stock.
Right.
So we also understand that. That's never fun. That's just the way it is.
How the way it goes. But yes, we'll also let you know when they come back in stock as well. Bug says, can you give some tips on wet blending? PA always dries so fast I can't seem to get a handle on it.
Wet blending is difficult because with acrylics in general, you're going to have to be quick. And what quick usually means is you're going to have to knock the model down into smaller areas that you're trying to blend in. Right?
Yeah.
So let me get done with some of this.
I also just sent you a short. He did wet blending tips. That's a great one to watch.
Yeah, I was going to say, we just did a video not too long ago that's really, really good for that if you haven't seen it.
Super basic, but it really explains the concept well. And he did it right there as well in that video.
I don't even go with the really bright areas here. Because you're always going to be fighting. Can you add like retarders? Sure. You know, you could use our glazed wash medium. You can use Noosh. We've had a lot of people say that they've really dialed in their wet blending by starting to use Noosh. You just don't want to mix a whole lot, right? Because you don't want the paint sliding around as you try to blend it. But Noosh works great for that because of its elongated dry time. I mean, Noosh can let it be where you've got, 5 minutes to blend your colors, which puts it on par with oils for what we're trying to do. Makes it even better than that.
Ace said, have you mentioned the OneSteps were great through an airbrush? Yep. Would I get correct with assuming the special sauce would be a good airbrush thinner for pro acrylic paints? I tried it, and it's I like how it goes, for me personally.
I always look at these things as that's not what it's for. Use the glaze wash medium, right? But if what you're looking for is to lower viscosity, yes, the special sauce will lower viscosity really nicely. But in that point, just use water because that's all you're getting out of it. And it's an expensive medium.
I guess that's true.
It's an expensive medium to use for that because you're not really getting anything other than the viscosity dilution, which you get better from water. So, not better, but the same.
Yeah.
So I don't know why you would do that.
Interesting. I didn't think of it that way. I was just doing it out of muscle memory of wanting to test it because I did that the other day. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. I guess I could just use water.
Yeah, because if you're wanting the paint to not you're wanting the paint to be runnier is really what it is, so that it's that kind of thin as it goes through the airbrush because it flows better.
Yeah,
and in a lot of cases, water is your best friend there.
And OneStep with water through the airbrush is really cool too.
Yeah,
that's like a easy mode glazing filter hack that I'm finding enjoyable. Shadowcast just got my first HBA. I was wondering how to use them right. Also, how often should I change my water out? HBA. What's that?
I don't know.
Got my first HBA.
I don't know what the acronym is. It's probably going to be very self-evident when they tell us, but I'm like, I'm confused. I don't know what that is.
Oh, the expert acrylics. Heavy body acrylic? Is that what you're saying? Oh.
Yeah, it's not an acronym that I'm familiar with.
I was wondering how to use them right. Also, how often should I change my water out?
Your paint water?
Yeah. Project neutral, baby.
Yeah, paint water's a funny thing because I don't change it out except when I start a new project. And the reason for that is that the colors that I'm using, like on this model, I don't care if they get mixed in with one another. I don't care if I go over to the paint cup and in it is what Chris just kind of alluded to, what we call project neutral. When you mix every color that you have used on a model together, it will give you a muddy gray or brown usually that is indicative of that mixture. And that is a good color to have.
It's a great color.
It lets you do a lot of stuff. Normally, we're not mixing it all the time to use, but it's not a problem to have in your paint cup and have it get on your brush. And then, if I'm painting white blue right now, and it's a bright color, and every time I dip my cup into the water, I'm getting a gray color in the brush that is the culmination of all the other colors I've used, because we've used a lot of purples and magentas and blues, and so I have this cool gray, purpley mush. White blue, that's going to darken my white blue, but it's going to darken it in the right hues to match everything on the model, so I don't care. So I only change per project because of that. And it works really well. In Arizona, it's so dry that a lot of times we will have to maybe change or add more water is typically what I do. I'll add more water to the cup every couple of days because so much of it evaporates and I just don't have enough. And that you have to watch out for because you don't want the water in the cup to be sludge. You lose all the water and all you have is the pigment left. That's probably bad. So
And then Shadowcast says, how about the expert acrylics? How do I use them?
Well, they're just paint. So put a little bit more water on your brush and paint with them. They just don't start as liquid. But they start with a hell of a lot more pigment. And so they let you go through and have a lot more saturation with minimal effort. All you have to do is have a little bit more water on your brush in order to really get the bulk of the work out of them. So, leave a little bit more water on the brush and then start painting with them. Play with them. See what they do that you like. See what they do when you don't have as much water on the brush. Put a little bit more on there and see what happens. That's what I'm always telling people to do.
Little Billy, Jordan used the fluorescence with OneStep last week when doing his Zerg, or a couple weeks ago, it seems like now.
A pretty important thing I'm doing right now. Again, I'm going through and glazing with the white blue. Can you go in super close?
Yeah.
I want to show people what's happening here.
Yeah.
As I'm getting this metal, I want to make sure that this side is brighter. So I've got my white blue on here in a broader area, and then I'm glazing back into that area to turn all of these darker reflections brighter around the white. And I'll only do it on this side where I want it brighter so that I get a brighter shine. I can do this with the airbrush, but I have all these other colors around it. I don't want to spot airbrush this right here.
Yeah.
And then I won't glaze over here. So I get the punch of the royal purple and the dark gray blue and the faded ultramarine over here. And here I desaturate it all because that's what light does as it hits. And so I'll just play around and keep glazing more and more layers until I'm satisfied with how the shiny top-facing areas look. One side to the other. And this type of glaze is ultra thin, right? But that gives us a really good look at how to make sure that you can dial in your values. So let me pull it over here. The type of white blue that I'm using is like this, right? Yeah. Basically like colored water.
Right.
So you want to make sure you get most of the water, the wetness off of your brush before you come over to the model. And then when you're at the model, you want to do more broad strokes, not thin lines. Right? A lot of people always ask me, how do you do, glaze brighter colors without having them turn all chalky? And this is the way.
There you go. What's the difference, Jason? Calabrito's asking, what's the difference between the new OneStep and the older transparent paints?
So it's a great question. I'm trying to find the way in the videos, because we talk about it in the videos that are coming up for OneStep 2, and getting people used to asking the question, what is this paint used for? Why does it exist? What's it for? Most of Pro Acryl it's for painting and it has a different color. That's easy. When you look at the transparents are just normal Pro Acryl colors using single pigment mixes. So they're super saturated and they're see-through, but they act like normal paint. They're no different than normal Pro Acryl colors. They just have tons of color, and you can see through them more than you can the opaque colors in the rest of the line. That's it. That's literally all transparent colors are. That's transparent Pro Acryl means you can see through those paints a little bit more. They don't act any differently. They don't do anything differently. You can do exactly the same thing with them, mix them, thin them, treat them exactly like you would any of your other Pro Acryl colors. It's just that they are all, other than the brown, they're all single pigment colors. So super saturation, high levels of pigment. They're basically like the expert acrylics, right? The heavy body line. They're basically the liquid version of the heavy body line.
Okay.
Right? So what are the heavy body paints? We had that question asked. They're just our paints that aren't liquid, but they are, which means they can contain more pigment, more vibrancy, more saturation, and then you get to tune them more to how you like than you can with a liquid acrylic that's already diluted. Because no matter what you do, when we turn a pro level pigment into a liquid paint, right, you're going to dilute it to some extent. The expert acrylics are just undiluted pure pigment paints. So you're starting from the holy grail of whatever color you've got in your hand, and then you can dilute it and mix it how you like, right? But in order to make it available to you like that, it has to not be a liquid acrylic first, and then you start to thin it out and turn it liquid to work in the situation that you feel comfortable doing. You know, when we paint with them, like we've painted this entire model with them, and you don't build up any texture, and I haven't thinned them down. Like this is basically out of the tube with a damp brush, and we paint this guy. And you know, it's just like painting a canvas or anything else. They lay super flat. They don't fill in details. You can that's why ours really rock, is because they are meant for three-dimensional objects, whereas normal heavy-bodied acrylics are not. Think of ours as more of a medium body acrylic, because they're smooth application like a soft body, but they have the pigment load of a heavy body. So that's kind of where they sit.
Nice.
But okay, so when we've defined all that, right, now you talk about what else there is. There's metallics, right? The metallics are just normal pro acrylic colors, but they have mica flake in them for the shine.
Yeah.
So that they do a different thing at the end. They're going to be shinier. They're going to be reflective. They're going to give the feel of a metal object. So we use them like that. We all know what that is. Fluorescents. They're just our pro acrylic colors with fluorescent pigments. And fluorescent pigments, when they absorb UV lighting, then they fluoresce when you turn the lights out, and they're emitting a different wavelength of color. So they actually glow. They also are very bright over white, which is the trick with them. They're effect paints that are meant to do OSL. That's really all they are. So that takes care of pretty much the whole line. Now you talk about things like washes. What is a wash? A wash is a paint that is not only diluted to the point where you can see through it more, it also has a chemical component to it that changes the way it glides across the surface. A wash is not meant to paint it on with a brush stroke and have it stay where you put it. It's meant to paint it on and have it slide across the surface into low spots to act as a shade 99% of the time. We don't really use bright colored washes. That takes us into the world of OneStep. And so that's what a wash is. So it's meant for something different. It and the transparents might at face value seem very similar because they're more see-through, but the transparents won't slide into the crevices of the model and do any shading unless you mix the glazed wash medium with them, unless you turn them into a wash.
Yeah. So
the washes in our line are just pre-mixed versions of pro acryl paints that will act a certain way, which is act like a wash. OneStep is just pro acryl. Well, okay, there's nuances to the chemical makeup and the pigment that we use, but in general, they are just pro acryl colors that have been turned into a functional paint that now not only acts like a wash and that it slides across the surface more and loads pigment into low spots for shading, technically, but it also acts like the transparents in that it stains the surface it hits exactly where the brush hits it, right? So when you put the OneStep on the surface, it's turning the surface that color. There is no like a wash where all of your colors in the shadows, and if you were to put a black wash on a model and it turned your model black, you'd think there was a problem, right? Whereas OneStep is going to move like a wash but turn the whole model whatever color you just used, right? So I've been telling people that, you know, the OneStep mentality and that speed paint contrast mentality is that what we're trying to do is create a paint that will act like a paint as far as its tint, what we call tint strength. It'll color the model the way you expect it to, but also take the better part of a wash and pull a little bit of that pigment into the shadows to give you that duotone finish on a model so it looks like you've done more work than you have. So they're all different. They can all be tweaked to do very similar things. What you really have is, because in the real world, you know, I say the real world, we're in the real world, but for a pro-level painter, somebody that's been painting for decades like me, you really only need 20 colors and some mediums. Because your goal is to turn colors into functional things that you need. I need to turn this color into an airbrush paint, so I add medium to it. I don't go buy that color as an airbrush paint, right? In your head. You do because we're lazy, and we want to go have it be easy to achieve the airbrush color. So we want the color to be an airbrush color, right? But a lot of these things are things that we can do. If we just came out with special sauce medium, you would be able to turn your whole line into OneStep, you know, and use them all like that. So the OneStep colors are just us doing that step for you and coming out with some cool new colors that just work better straight out of the bottle. So that's it. We are in the real world. Speak for yourself.
Jason, Boshak is asking specifically about these runes on the sword. How would you do glowing runes like that?
Paint them white first and then put whatever color in, glaze whatever color you want in on top of them. That's how you paint runes. How you paint OSL, anything. Paint it white, titanium white. If you want them to glow very far out, use some transparent white around the edges to make it look like it's glowing onto the surface color, and then glaze the color you want the rune to be over the top. And glaze as many layers until you get it to be the opacity you want. Super simple. I say that. The glazing part always makes it suck, right? For people that aren't comfortable with glazing, the glazing is the part that's going to be the worst, right? Yeah, that's right. Vince did glowing runes on a model last week for his hobby cheating, so go watch Vince Venturella's video. He did a really good video last week. Yes.
Never done runes, but have done a little glazing. I use our transparent white for that stuff too a lot.
Yep.
What's the best ratio for mixing glazes, Jason?
For creating a glaze? Best ratio of what? Water or glaze wash medium? Glaze wash medium, I start like 5 or 6 drops of medium to 1 drop of paint. I go pretty heavy. My mentality and what I teach people in lesson style is that it's always better to over thin for opacity, like knock the opacity down too far, because you can put 2 layers of paint on to get where you need to be. If you don't thin it down enough, then you have too much opacity and you ruin what you were painting over because you get too much color and it blows out what you were wanting to do. So always over thin or err on the side of over thinning, right? Until you figure out for the color and the style you're going for how it works. Because there is no silver bullet mixing ratio, right? Because the color is going to be dependent on that. If it's a brighter color, you might have to thin it less. Darker colors maybe thin it more, but that depends on what you're using them for. What's your expectation? If I want a heavy shadow, I don't mix. I may mix 1-to-1 glaze wash medium to color because that'll knock the opacity down to something like Payne's Grade just enough to be able to glaze an extra thick shadow in. You know, so glaze is not a definite. It's what do you need it to be, but I'm always a fan of thinning it too much because if you put it on and it's not enough color, no big deal. Put another layer on once that layer dries. That adds more color. And you can continue doing that until you like it. And that's the easiest way to learn glazing and get comfortable with it. What you'll find is that you get frustrated with how many layers you have to put because you're over thinning, right? And then you'll start thinning less and you'll finally figure it out. Guide yourself to the holy land, so to speak. Okay, November, there's 2 different things at play here. Over-thinning for opacity and over-thinning viscosity. This is the problem, is that thinning is 2 things, and we use it as a term for one thing. People talk about paint being too thin, and a lot of times I don't know what they're talking about, because is that meaning you can see through it too much? Or does that mean it's too runny? There's 2 different things, viscosity and opacity. So when we're talking about thinning, I'm right now talking about thinning for opacity, right? So let's show. What colors do I have out here? I got white, blue, right? So I'm going to just leave a brush load of water. It's however much water this number 3 brush will hold, and then I'll come over here and grab some white, blue. So this is going to be a lake of awfulness, right? So now I have that much pigment in the brush. That's way too much. That's what happens when you start grabbing a lot of glaze, right? So let's grab a model we don't care about here, like this guy, right? And if I were to go onto this model and start trying to glaze over this red pouch with this white blue, right, with all this viscosity, right, look what happens. It just goes all over, big droplets, right? The pigment floats where the most liquid is. And so right now I'm creating a very uneven dispersion of pigment because I got these lines of wetness. Down here I'll have more pigment. All the pigment will go where that wetness is. Okay, that will give you the clumping and the irregular texture at the end, right? But now, watch what you do. You unload all of that material and viscosity off of the brush. And now, when I go over here without all that wetness, I can really glaze nicely the highlights on this other pouch. Across the top, right there in the middle, and nowhere do I get big bulked up amounts of paint because I got rid of the ability for the brush to unload a whole lot of pigment by getting rid of it on my hand. And now I see instantaneously when I go back for round 2, it brightens up that area. And so now I could weather this pouch really nicely, right? Without any of that clumping. And now you've just basically glazed with white with no problem. The problems all come from over thinning and then placing all of that on the model. People forget you can't go to your model with your brush that wet. You wouldn't do that if you're painting details. You wouldn't go with a big glob of paint on your brush When you thin it out, you still have to remember that. Don't go to the model with a big glob of paint on your brush. Get rid of it on a paper towel. I use my thumb palette to the point where it almost feels like the brush is dry, but I can still get more pigment out of that. Look at that.
November saying, can you show us what it looks like on the thumb palette again, taking it off?
Yeah. See, it doesn't seem like I have any paint on the brush, but I still do. And I can keep doing this kind of texturing and glazing with a bright color till the brush just gives up and doesn't have anything left on it.
Yeah.
That's controlled. This is uncontrolled. Uncontrolled, zoom in super close.
Yeah.
You can already see how it's going to give me a really horrible texture of pigment. Look at that. There's spotting of pigment everywhere where it kind of just floated and stuck to the model. It's got coffee staining right there. It's going to have this big bulk of pigment in this low spot here. It looks chalky, where this looks perfect. That's the problem that people have with glazing. It isn't your paint. It's your method of glazing. If you're putting too much wetness on the model, and there's a big range between this that is perfect and this that is too wet, that doesn't work. Like, it's only this that works. Anything more wet than what you saw me do here leads to this at some level. So getting rid of the pigment on your thumb, let's load the brush up again. Again, I want to glaze, so I want a lot of wetness to dilute the opacity of the paint. So I need a lot of water to lower the opacity. Come over here and grab the paint. Now I have it filled with a very low opacity see-through white blue, but again, like I showed you, it floods the model, hard to control, powdery, pigment drops where I don't want it. It's not controllable. So then when I come over here, let's look at like this thing, and you can see, right, number one, you're testing how thin the paint is. That looks good. I'm going to be able to see stuff through it, right, because I can see my tattoos and I can see the paint on my hand through it. So that's good. So I'm looking to check for opacity, and then I'm also getting rid of all that wetness. Like, I really want it to where the only amount of wetness I have is when I do fast brush strokes, I get really thin lines. And when I press hard, I only get thin lines. Now I can come over here and I can glaze with that. It's going to be harder on this yellow. Let's do it on this. There you go. Right? So now I'm getting it. It's acting like a normal paint. It's only going where I put it. It's dropping pigment off at the end of the brush stroke the same way normal painting would. Maybe a little bit more because it's loose in a glaze, but it's doing exactly what you want it to do. Right? It's going to be exactly the way you need it. Right? I can glaze that edge with it and never worry about whether or not pigment is building up and it's going to look powdery or any of the stuff that people gripe about when they start learning how to glaze.
Yeah.
Completely controllable because you don't have enough liquid on the brush to do this. This is what kills people. And you can do this by layering too many layers too. Remember, too many semi-wet layers will start to build up pigment like this too. And that's a total difference in the way it looks powdery. Like, look at that bright white line across there.
Yeah.
Right? That's just pigment loading into a low spot on the details of the model. So the model is controlling what's happening, which is not what you want. Unless you're doing a wash or using OneStep paint or something like that on here. This was me in full control. But the paint is still super see-through, still gave me the highlight I wanted, still did everything you wanted to do. This is the trick that will get you to be a pro glazer versus hating glazing.
Yep.
Get rid of waste most of the paint on your thumb or a paper towel. Paper towels are more absorbent, so they take off more material, so I find it to be harder to control and know when I've got it right. I've just been doing it on my thumb for my whole life, so that's up to you, though.
Nice. There you go. And when do you use, Jason, then when do you use the glaze and wash medium? Somebody was asking that. Lapton, I think. That's a
great question, because the glaze wash medium makes this even easier, because the glaze wash medium keeps the paint at a higher viscosity. It keeps it feeling like paint. So when we use the glaze wash medium, we'll do it with a white blue too. I'll put some glaze wash on. Right. The glaze wash medium takes care of most of this problem as you're learning, because it allows you to lower the opacity and control the viscosity all at once. Right, so if I load up my brush with glaze wash medium instead of water, and then go over into my white blue paint, right, and then I'm just going to paint on the model again. The first thing you'll notice is that we don't get runny paint. We get thicker paint that moves like paint. See how it's not loading up in puddles? It's going where my brush puts it, but it is thicker. So I'm going to get more material on there. So you still want to take some off, But you're really only doing that now to control opacity when you use the glazed wash medium. That's the magic of the glazed wash, is it doesn't do this. Like if I just ladle it on over this part where we just were, right, it doesn't do the same thing that happened over here, right? It puts a lot of material on there, but it's not like water. See, I can still come over here and look at how much I'm taking off. It's still tons and tons of wetness on there. But it's thicker because the glazed wash medium is thick like paint, not thin like water. So the glazed wash medium handles a lot of get the pigment loose, right? Notice how it's still wet. Look how much wetness I put on there, but not much pigment. So the glazed wash medium can help you by getting rid of that. It is always good to remember to take a lot of it off of your brush anyway, even when using the glazed wash medium, so that you don't overdo it. And so that you get used to when you're using water and not putting a mix together with a glazed wash. Because in a lot of cases, when you're just painting, you're going to be doing glazing in between layering steps. You're not just making a glaze mix all the time. You've got a color on your palette and you want to do a pass of glaze with it real quick. You don't want to have to change on the fly and turn it into a glaze. You just want to leave more water on your brush and have it work that way. So both are good to know, but err on the side of caution and always take a lot of the material off even when you're using the glazed wash medium.
There you go. That was great. Dark Sea Ben.
Dark Sea Ben.
I gotta get, Danger Boy says, I gotta get in the habit of even just doing a small touch on a towel after I load the brush with paint.
Yep.
Lapton says, you guys are the best. Thanks for that. All the explanations. Yeah.
No problemo.
That's a big one. A lot of people ask, like, why are my glazes so chalky?
Yep.
Right?
That's exactly the reason. And
Yeah.
it's not just your bright colors. Your dark colors are doing the same thing. You're just not noticing it because they're not putting enough contrast on your model for you to see it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yo,
People
yeah.
will say, no, it's just my bright colors. No, it's all your colors. The dark ones you just can't see. But if you could put them under a microscope, they're doing the same exact thing because it's the application that's causing the problem. Like right now, I'm overloading my Dark Sea Ben with a lot of water so that it will glaze over the top of that white blue.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm taking all of the material off the brush so that I can come in here and start adding in a neat, almost greenish tinge to some of my shadow. So I'm doing this just for color.
Yeah. Yeah, Jason, I think that's a good one for us next time, for me and you.
To do glazing with it?
Master glazing. I definitely, what you just did, I was recording that bit. That is my problem.
Yep, it's everybody's problem.
Glazing consistency.
It is everybody's problem. The controlling of viscosity on the brush is the biggest problem for most people to do every technique.
Mm-hmm.
Wet blending. You know, somebody was asking earlier about wet blending problems. That's usually the problem with learning to wet blend, is that you're not leaving enough material on the brush to actually do the blending part with.
Yeah. This is giving it a really cool effect, by the way.
Yeah, it's just something where I'm looking at it for color against all of the rest of the model, and
It's
I'm
like
thinking to myself, oh, you know, it might be kind of cool.
It's like an deep emerald mask on this guy. Yeah.
And then on the shadow side, I'll do more of this color.
Danger saying, why did you feel you needed a touch, a little bit of the green? Just instinct, question mark?
It's just like when you're playing with color on the model, it's tying the composition together. I've got this green going on here with magentas and all of that. And so I want this to be a silver mask, but I want it to also be a little otherworldly like everything else we're doing. And so in order to get that to happen, I can just glaze some color in here. I could glaze some magenta in here, right? I can play with color on, and that's what glazing is really powerful at, is letting me adjust hue where I need to any point along the way. So if I look at something and I say, yeah, you know, the silver maybe stands out a little bit too much from the rest of the natural colors of the model, then that Dark Sea Ben, that little pinch of green at the nose there, just does a number on it.
Yeah.
And when you get good at glazing, you're not even interrupting the value that you've put on the model too much, right? Like I'm not putting it over the bright areas of the model really, except over here on the shadowed side or the dark reflective side. And now you can have the color temperature, the tonal quality of the mask can take on, right? More green over here is going to be really cool for us because it's going to really give it kind of a, I don't know, I keep saying otherworldly. Chris calls it, what did you call it? Fey wild?
It's fey, right?
Fey,
it's kind of like the best
it's like
way.
Fairyland coloring,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
It's like, I don't know what fairies are, but they have all sorts of weird colors combos. And so when you can play around and bring a little more green into the dark reflective side, but most of that gets blown out on the bright reflective side, then it starts to feel, more magical. Mithril versus just steel.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that playing around with color that way is always fun for me. So whether it's actually, realistic or not is of very little importance to me.
Yeah. Cool.
So I like that. And I like this wood to, this bright metal. And so we'll do that because I'm going to do the armor wood on this person. And then like the bright metal knee and shoulder and maybe helm that I think will work very well together to pull that coloring up. Be fun.
Banskar says, thanks, Jason, for teaching methods are fantastic. I feel like I learned a bunch of sense learning joining these streams. And, of course, Chris, for picking out the great questions. Yeah, I was just saying that.
I love that.
We have so much content. I'm going to reply to one of those comments. We are, essentially, when I try to get all of these, we have a backlog, right? So, essentially, with other things that go on, I can't get them out as fast as I would like. But definitely, we have that. So, that kind of stuff does expect it, right?
It's funny.
I take notes of everything.
We can go on record saying we've produced more content than any other painter on the planet.
When you actually try to capture it again,
but turning it into stuff that's usable takes so much additional time, and it just will never catch up. But the good thing is we have content till the sun burns.
Yes, and that's the moral of that story is that these tips are coming, and then I take note of all of them, right? So that until it becomes its own tutorial, that's why I have that big stream log of like, hey, it's in this one. So, but yes, thank you for your patience, especially with the glazing one, right? Because I tend to lean towards the ones that you guys all ask the questions about, and that's how our stuff comes out, right? It's like, okay, how many times, Jason, have you answered the glazing question?
1 million.
Well, I would say probably literal thousands.
Oh, 100%.
Millions.
Well, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
People say, how do you come up with enough content for doing the stream 10 hours a week for 10 years? And I'm like, well,
it never's a problem
because there's always somebody that needs to hear it again.
Yeah.
And there's always somebody who hasn't heard it the way that it really clicks for them yet.
Yeah.
And I haven't delivered the statement the right way. I haven't shown you the right way. I haven't shown you something that makes it work.
Yeah.
Bud might go, who was it was asking about the wet blending?
Oh gosh, who was asking about
was it Bud?
I think it was November.
Oh, well, you may go watch that wet blending video and it may just click for you. You may watch it and it still might not work. I get people all the time. They're like, I've watched your stream for years and it was only on Tuesday that I really had non-metallic metal click for me. Because of something I was doing. Maybe I was talking, maybe I wasn't. Maybe it was just a shape of something that made more sense to them. The problem with miniature painting is that unlike canvas painting, where we're making up all the shapes are just kind of thrown at us.
Yeah.
So I'm just making do with the shape of the model in front of me.
Yeah.
And you may not have a model that has these shapes, and that might keep you from learning. Because you're like, well, I'm watching him paint this antler, but I like that color, but I don't have anything with antlers. How do I make that color work on Space Marines? Right? I'm always bagging on Space Marines, but that's the reality is we have a lot of people that will dive right back into, okay, so how do I do that color on anything else?
Yeah.
Because I'm not painting a Boosabu, and I'm like, for me, my initial reaction is, well, you paint it the same way because that's my brain. That's how my brain's wired. It's like, I'm not painting any different because it's antlers than I would any other time I'm using these colors. But for somebody who hasn't grasped it yet, they might need to see it on a shape that resonates with them for a model they have in front of them.
Yep.
Which is why we pick up test models a lot and try to paint that way so that we're able to put it into perspective that maybe is, what I would call closer to home for you.
Wirehead. Is Jason going to do those antlers in felt texture or something like wood grain?
I don't know.
Are they actual antlers
I think so.
in your mind?
I think so. I kind of want them to be bone style coloring. But like dark bone.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to interfere too much with the silvery metallic that we've started here.
Lumberjack said, that was me with non-metallic metal. Years ago, Fuse tried to teach me while we were painting at the same time, and it didn't click. Years later, it made sense.
Yeah.
It's different. It speaks to different people different ways, right?
Like I said, it takes... I think with non-metallic metal in specifics, it takes a shape you're familiar with. A shape that is easy and not daunting for you to paint. Sword, axe, shield, rather than custodian armor. If I paint a non-metallic gold custode, or full non-metallic gold Space Marine armor, it's not going to click for everybody because they're not painting that shape. They're wanting to paint the, whatever, the mask on an undead guy. And so until you have that shape performed in front of you, that's what's so good about doing paint-alongs, right? Where we all paint the same model. And so we've discussed that around here, like working with some of the model companies that we know and love, or with our own, and having paint-alongs where you guys can pick up the model, join in on us painting a specific thing where we're all focused on painting the same shape.
Yeah.
Because then you'll get it. Guaranteed. Those are why classes are so important, because you're all, in a good class, you're all painting the same model. I don't know about classes where they're saying bring whatever you want to paint. That probably doesn't work as well. But, like when we painted Namor in the class at Adepticon, right? People can't go off the reservation. It's like you're literally painting the same model. So if you have a problem, I can show you on that same model, and it'll be easier, hopefully, for you to grasp.
Sniper Corgi, is there an existing video on basic coding properly? Not an exact one? Not a bad idea.
Base coding properly? I'm kind of doing it right now. What questions can I answer?
Yes.
Do you have a particular question?
Yeah, you have a specific?
That's what I'm doing now.
I guess maybe just like consistency of paint on your brush, maybe just loading it.
I'm literally just putting paint on the brush and smacking it on the model, making sure it isn't pooled up. Whenever I'm basing, I think the reality is, let's see, I put however much paint the brush will hold, and I smack it down in an area, and then I keep going back to that area to take all that wetness and spread it around. And then I just try to keep my brush strokes from that area of paint kind of going in a similar direction, so that this area, the horn here, all kind of, has lines coming in the same direction. That's probably not the most important thing when base coating, because you're going to cover it up anyway. So you can just smack paint around. And coverage typically is the thing you're looking for, depending on the color and what you're using it for. Here, because I'm painting a natural, I must assume it's natural horn, or, biomatter, because these guys are biomancers. So maybe it's not horn, maybe it's bone or whatever. That you might have more or less texture depending on what it is. I might be smoother with the application on a Space Marine than I am on a rock, because a rock's going to have a lot of texture to it. A tree's going to have a lot of texture to it. This horn is going to have a lot of texture to it, so I don't really care as much.
Stan's saying, when I do that, I create texture. Is there a way to avoid it?
Make sure your brush is just a little bit damp.
Okay.
Would be the first thing I would say. Because I guess that's the part that I'm leaving out here, is that my brush is always, I go over and look, like I go and I click, we'll go over to the palette.
Yeah.
I'm going to clean my brush, right? Rinse it, wipe it off once, 2, 3 times, because I don't want a ton of water, right? So the amount of water that I have is not a lot. It's not going to leave like droplets, but you can see it still puts moisture out on my skin.
Yeah.
That's what I want a base layer with, right? I don't want it to I don't want it dripping like I was making a glaze, but I want it to, if I paint without, or if I brush without paint, I'm going to get moisture on my hand.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to go over and get however much paint I can put in the brush. Sorry. Right? I say how much. You could load a lot more than this, but this is comfortable. And then I'm just going to go over and I'm going to paint with it, and it's going to be maybe thinner than you like. Maybe I'll see some of the black through it, and then I will not put as much water on the next time or whatever. But this will make sure that the paint lays pretty thin.
Yeah.
And then I just spread it out. And you notice how at the end of my spreading, it gets, textured. I'll just kind of slap it around. I'm just trying to get it to cover all the surfaces. Zoom in close.
Yep.
Right? It's messy. I'm not doing anything you can't do. I literally, my brain shuts off when I'm base layering because I'm just like smack it on there and spread it around. But I think it is probably that you want that little bit of moisture on the brush. Don't worry about being able to see, like in this case, a little bit of the black, showing through. Don't worry about it. You can touch that up. I'm always a fan of not worrying about covering in one coat. I don't know that I'm going to go to the, too thin coats mentality, but, because a lot of times you do it in one, because you should be thinking about, okay, what do I need this to be? I'm going to put a lot more color on this, so I don't care that it covers consistently. I just need it to be colored on every surface, some version of this paint on every surface. If there's more black showing through, then there's going to be some spots that are going to be darker. Where I cover it more with the paint, then those are going to be brighter.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. If I look and I say, oh, well, up here at the top of the horn, it needs to be brighter, then I just put a little bit more paint on there. But I mean, you zoom in super close.
Yep. Sorry, I was trying to keep it
there's
straight.
no real texture. I mean, it's as smooth as I need it to be. And this is how I've been basing everything, so. I think that's really it. I might be there might be something I'm missing because it just is so second nature. That's the problem as we paint a lot of times, that I don't. It's like riding a bike. I forget all the things I need to say about getting on the bike because I just get on the bike, right? And so here I'm probably like I'm painting this surface first, and then I'm coming and doing the edges second, rather than thinking about covering the whole surface spot by spot. I'm kind of sectioning it off, top, bottom, front, back, all that in my head, and just doing them as I see fit. I don't know if that really makes a difference, but just trying to run through all the things that I might be thinking about that I'm not talking about.
Well, base coating for someone who's a little bit like, I don't know how to ride a bike.
That's what I'm saying, is that,
Yeah.
we as teachers have to be thinking that, what is everything? How do I state everything I'm doing right now?
Yeah.
Right? Because, in areas like this where it's tight into something of another color and I'm base coating, I don't want to get paint out of the lines. So I don't put as much wetness on the brush. And I'm, definitely being, a little bit tighter with my application. So I'm not, spreading the paint around. So this will definitely cover in one coat because I'm applying all the paint in a very deliberate manner in one little area, as opposed to big, broad brush strokes. So, I want the paint on the brush to be able to do all of that. So I don't want it too thin.
Yeah.
And then I just go back and load up. If I start seeing more of the black showing through, I go grab more paint, because I'm not afraid to put more paint on the model right now. Now, Procural's really good at this because it lays so flat. If you've got a paint that you're using that, maybe is showing more texture, you might need more thinning than what I'm showing you. Every brand is going to be different in terms of, what they do best. And so you might be using a brand that has a thicker medium, and in order to get it to base coat without brush strokes showing, you may need to thin it a little bit more and do more coats.
Beef Berkey, other than the great paint Monument makes, one of the largest reasons for me to swap everything to Procurl was the stream.
Thank you.
That amount I have learned, and everything you guys have done for the hobby, always given my happy to give my money to a company I want to support. Beef Berkey, thank you.
Thank you. That means the world.
Yeah.
We didn't ever set out with that kind of, I'd be lying if I said that I hope people enjoy painting more by hanging out with us.
That's
but the support has been great, and we really, really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
We turn this stream on every day and sit here and do this with you, every time we do, so that we can hopefully inspire you to stop staring at gray models, stop being afraid of trying something new. Hell, stop being afraid to pick up that brush you bought that you haven't ever tried.
Yep.
All of that stuff. I think we've had a lot of really, really good conversations today about so much of that. And, hopefully we can unlock that one thing that's bugging you, that one thing that's keeping you from trying something new, that one thing that's keeping you from sitting down at your painting desk. Maybe we've had some people over the last few days that come in saying, hey, I get really burnt out. Heck, we had one person come in today. If you're still out there, thank you so much, because this comment was really great, saying that they had been in a real lull and hadn't been painting, found the stream, and all of a sudden painted more models in the last few months of watching us paint the stream than they had in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's awesome.
That's why we do it.
Because Chris tells enough bad jokes to make you focus on painting.
10%.
God knows. You definitely don't want to focus on what Chris is talking about.
10%, 90% business, 10% fun, win time. There you go. You got to have a balance, I guess.
I love the confidence at the end. If you're into that sort of thing.
Well, we appreciate it 100%. Beef Berkey, thank you for that compliment. Roadside says, Pro-Acryl has become my go-to brand for everything. In between playing around with it, watching you guys here, and having something that behaves the same way regardless of the color is something that I've not experienced with any other paint brand I've tried.
That's the thing. That's the big key.
We are about consistency.
It's paint made by artists. It's paint made by people that paint. And so, as we discover new things that we want paint to do, we go and see if we can make it happen with our products. As opposed to just, making Me Too products or, buying the same paint somebody else has and slapping a different label on it. We make the stuff we want to use, and it feels different because of that.
Yeah.
The hardest thing for me is when people go, how come your paint doesn't act like Vallejo? And I'm like, because it's not Vallejo. If you want Vallejo, go buy Vallejo. They make good paint. We make something different because I like painting different than my experience with other paints over the decades that I've been painting. I wanted something that was easier. The consistency thing is huge for me. The consistency purchase to purchase of the same color is huge to me. You run out of a color with us and you go buy that color again, it's the same damn color.
Yeah.
We don't pull rugs and change it out on you. We don't have to because we make our own paint. We're in charge of that. Now, we'll tell you, our Pyrrol orange supplier changed, so orange changed minimally. We didn't even really announce it to anybody other than Discord because it didn't change enough for most people to know it. But we announced it. We were like, we had to switch pigment suppliers for this pigment because it doesn't exist anymore in its old form.
Yeah.
But we tested it with the paint and made sure that it looked exactly. I mean, if it looked exact enough for me to say, yeah, it's exactly the same, then I'm okay with it. There might be somebody out there that's, able to see differently than me and is like, why did orange change?
Yeah.
But we would never do that. So consistency, purchase to purchase, consistency, use to use, huge for me because I'm a lazy painter and I got to do this every day with you guys. I want to have fun painting. I don't want to be fighting my product. There's so many hobby products out there that you have to just do all this stuff, put it on a wet palette, do this thinning, add this medium in order to just get it to work, and I'm sick of that. I'm like, add the medium when you need what the medium does. Don't add the medium because you need it to have the paint work.
Yeah. Forger talked about Pro-Acryl yesterday with my local hobby store. He can't keep your stuff in stock because people are switching to Pro-Acryl.
Awesome. We find that in so many retailers that we go to. They order, they get the rack in, and then it sells out within 2 weeks. We are very blessed with that. The community has has tried the product. They don't just jump on the product for no reason. They try the product and then they like it. They see, they pay attention. That's what I love about our community is that painters know. They may not know what the terminology is. They may not know why. Why do my blends with Pro-Acryl just feel and look better? I don't know, but that's the paint we make. That's what we're trying to do is make it easier to paint for more people to paint. That's the reality. I just want everybody to have fun painting models. Yeah. I love this. I love that I'm a grown-ass man. I turned 56 this year. There has not been a year in my life where I haven't painted a model, and that's huge, For different reasons throughout the course of my life, I would, turn to my model and my hobby. And sometimes it was to take the pain of the world away. Sometimes it was because, I wanted to be a competitive, game player, whatever it was. Wanted to win that golden demon, whatever it is. It always has a way to bring more excitement to your life. And I would really love to do that for more and more people, especially in the world climate today.
Yeah.
I feel like that took way too long, but now I have horns, which makes the problem with the wood and everything we're doing on the head is those big black primed horns kept me from seeing the actual way my colors are going to look at the end.
So these are going to be more white, you think? I
don't know. I'm gonna do orange, oxide or burnt orange over the top of this.
Yeah.
Because I really love horns that have that earthy tone, and because we have the kind of orangish look here. So I think mixing a little bit of orange and then going up to the bone and ivory colors is going to be really good.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have to control the brightness so it doesn't compete too much with the silver face. So I might do to where they get dark at the tips.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Because I need to also make sure it doesn't look like the wood on the armored back of the neck.
Right.
Right? I need to get a color that sits with all of these and is different enough that it, plays well. I think we're starting to get there.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go in on this guy and do what I did here with the magenta on the leaves, because I really dig that. And that's what this is missing is, some of that. Even though it has the royal purple in the shadows, the leaves are a little too one-dimensional, like goblin-y green. And I really dig how they get this. I'm going to brighten them back up on the Boosabu, but yeah, then all of a sudden we have models that I think are going to look really good together.
There you go.
We're cooler than the other side of the pillow. We do have a good community. Spectral greenish blue on the horns? I mean, we could.
There's so many things you could do.
This model's going to have so much going on that I'm trying to be very careful in my thinking ahead with how to get to where we stop adding new color spaces.
Yeah.
I think now that I know that this and the wood together will become the armor for this guy, and then we'll do black leather on everything, that feels good to me. I think adding in too much more, we have a lot going on here.
There's a lot going on.
And at some point in time, you overload a model with cool ideas, and none of them really track. So you got to be careful with that. And that's what I'm riding the line between right now. Need to brighten this side back up since we did the dark seed bent on it, because it looks like.
Yeah. This is cool. This is a cool model.
Yeah. Yeah, and as the details get painted, that actually comes more to life, because we can't even really see what's going on with the rider, and the rider's really cool. So. Better Off Ted, love your name. I had stopped painting minis in 2020. Last year, saw Rogue Hobby Signature Series set paint video and bought it because in theory you can make every color known to man. If you had black, you definitely can, yeah. Minimalism aspect appealed to you since you've painted close to 100 models. Nice. That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad it shows. That's the big thing, right? That's what we spend all of our time around here doing, is in consistency of production and development and all of that, and making sure that the product does what we say it's going to do. It's always been a fear thing for me because I'm on this stream every day and I pick out a bottle and I tell you with a confidence what I'm about to show you. And if the paint doesn't perform, I am going to get it from you guys right away.
We don't hide anything.
So like we're the only product built out of fear of the customer, because we paint every day and we know you guys will yell at us if we don't do it right.
You want to talk about accountability.
It's accountability at the highest level, because we do it in front of our consumer base every single day, which is fun. Boshek, thanks. Yeah, it really does. It really does. Like I said, it's the paint I want to paint with. And I don't know if that matters to you. You may be new here and not know me from Adam. That's fine. But I've been painting for, coming up on, 48 years.
A long time.
Right, 48. This will be my 48th year of painting. And in 48 years, I can't say that in the beginning I cared, because in the beginning I just sucked like everybody when you're 8, 9, 10 years old. I didn't know what I was doing. But then through my teens and young adult years, where I really started focusing on what could make this not feel bad when I finish a model and put it up next to somebody else's model. And that was without the internet. I would take my models to shows and take my diorama to show, and I was so over the moon with it. Everybody in my family told me how good it was. All my friends told me how mind-blowing it was. And then you put it on the table next to somebody that actually knows what they're doing, and you're like, I'm not putting this on that table.
It's pretty scary.
There's no way I'm putting this model on that table. I walk in with so much confidence to so many things when I was young, and then said, nope, can I go put this in the car? I'm not putting it on that table. Because all the other models were real, and mine was joke.
Interesting.
And so as you go through that, for me, it was always, how do you get there? How do you make it not a joke, what I do? Because I really enjoy this and I want to be good at it. And so started putting things together, listening to conversations, asking people questions. And then you start to learn that the tools hold you back. Yeah. Because you're like, why do I have to do all this? I'm a very inquisitive mind, and on the logical side on why tools do what they do, I ask a lot of questions. I'm annoying. I'm like, why do we do this? Like, just shut up, kid. That's the way it works. And I'm like, well, it doesn't have to, does it? And I start asking those questions. And so that's where Procurl came from, was asking those questions and saying, hey, does it have to be this way? Right. Do I have to fight with my paint? Right? Dang, you old. I am old. That's why Chris can't pick on me, because I'm a protected class.
He's something.
Remember this. There was a learning curve when I switched to Procurl. It's funny. Procurl works the way I thought paint was supposed to work as a beginner, not adding water to base coat when against muscle. Bingo.
Yeah.
That's the biggest customer service issue we run into, is people expecting our paint to have to be worked with like other paints on the market that you have to do something to just to get them to work.
Yeah.
Now you get it. That's the clearest statement that's been said in chat in a long time. That's what hangs people up with Procurl. You have to relearn how to not have to expect to fix the paint. you can learn to expect to just paint. Pick the bottle up, paint with a paint. People are blown away when they come to us at shows and they say, hey, I'm having a problem with this, happened to that. And I go, let's grab the color and let's put it on a model and see what you're doing. And they'll take the color and they'll put it on the palette and they'll add the water to it and they'll do this stuff and they'll play around with it a lot of time. I'm like, what are you doing? And then I'll put the paint out and I'll put it on the brush and I'll put it on the model and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm like, paint with a paint. We make paint that's meant to paint right out of the bottle on your model. That's the way it's supposed to work. It's made for three-dimensional surfaces. We really went hard work to make sure that it's the best paint you'll ever touch.
Yeah.
That's just built for what we do. Now, if you want to go paint a bridge or you're going to go do a lot of canvas work, we have to discuss how to make it work in those arenas because it might not do exactly what you're expecting it to do because it's built for this. Yeah. It's built to do this. You don't see. That's why I can do this. I can go to the palette. That's why people say, why do you use a glass palette? Because I can. I don't have to do anything. I put my color out and I put my brush in the color and I put it on the model. Because to me, that's where my brain wants to be.
Right.
Because I want my creative side to be able to kick in. I don't want my problem-solving mind to always have to be active because that's what I am at work every day, when you're family, and all the other things that you pay attention to. Models should be fun and creative and inspirational, and I feel like you need to turn off the analytical questioning side and just do it. Now, that's not all true because when you start doing non-metallic metal and more complicated techniques and stuff, you do have to get analytical and, okay, what is this going to look like? And we talked about freehanding. What can I do to break that down? But it needs to be based around a creative space. Spend all your time thinking about how to make it not you that is the problem. That's where all my energy wants to be focused. How can I do my brush strokes better? How can I mix the color better? How can I put the paint on the model better? Not how do I have to get the product to work? Yeah. I can't say it enough times. That's where you need to be able to enjoy your creative space, because if the product is fighting you the whole time, then you're not even seeing what you can be. You're not even being able to practice, right? It's a waste of time. Rant over. Bottle to model. Roadside's been really fun watching your business partner using his paints. He gets mad because I use Procryl and just move through everything with steady workflow while he's fighting with the paint. Yeah, exactly. You know, but we become used to things, and that's why I say the right product is the one that gets you to the finish line in a way you're happy with. And I can't tell you how much it took me to relearn how to use Procryl when I switched, when we started testing and making, and it was a really, I think the thing that made it easier than I'm probably making it sound is that I had to test so long to get it right that I had, through the testing process, retrained myself how to paint. But yeah, I still had lots of bad habits from having painted for all those years with other products. Sure. You know, I worked for GW, and GW didn't like us using anything. And I used to sneak Vallejo into the GW offices so that I could paint with paint that worked for some of the colors that I really needed. And they hated me, but I had a drawer with the bad guy paints in it, right? Yeah. And I've always just said, hey, I need to find what works. I can't be that specific. And so when we wanted to be a brand, we wanted to make it as close to everything in the brand just works as we possibly could. Yep. That's the whole story. So thank you guys for noticing. That means the world, because it means, hey, we might have got this sort of right. Yeah. There you go. We're still around after 8 years, so I think we got it sort of right. Yeah, it's such a hard time coming from canvas to mini painting. Oh, it's tough, right, Kiro? It's tough. Your paint really does work like a traditional. Yep. Awesome. I'm glad you see that, because yeah, I painted as much canvas and 2D art and drew and inked as I did any modeling. And so that probably it probably is one of the biggest examples of why I got frustrated with hobby paints. Because it just didn't, art paint just works. You just grab the color. You're worried more about how do I make the color I want, because they didn't make every color back then. I didn't have 800 colors I could afford to buy. I had CMYK and a couple other ones, a couple of greens, a couple of violets, and then you just mixed everything to get the paint. So it was you were the weakest link. And I always feel like in creative endeavors, you should be the weakest link, because you're the thing that you can work on to fix, and you feel good when you do. Yeah. Thoughts on mica versus aluminum flake and metallic paint? I prefer mica because it allows us a lot more freedom with color. Aluminum is very difficult because it either has to be anodized or it doesn't take well with coloring, which is why most of the aluminum-based paints are in the silver and gray metallics range. It's very difficult to get a good gold and things like that that span a range. You can get a really good center gold and you can play around with it, but they don't work as well as all the metal, the steel and iron and those colors because of the aluminum base. So mica is much better for that because it allows us to play with color in a way that you just can't do with aluminum. Now, if you're talking about heavier solvent paints and doing like alcohol or enamels or lacquers, then aluminum is the way to go. But I would be talking about like painting motorcycle tanks, and then I would be laying down a metallic surface and then a candy coat over it, something like that. And then in that world, aluminum rules because it's definitely going to hold its shine over a much longer time than mica on like a motorcycle tank or fender or car or whatever. So there's a world where there's a reason why it exists and it's the best thing, and I wouldn't spray mica on a car. But you paint differently there because you're building up part of the world of metallic paints where it works so well is when you're actually being able to build up thickness of paint on a surface. Remember, when you're painting lacquer on a car or enamel on a car or whatever it is you're spraying on a motorcycle tank, you know, it's like those tables where you're building up a clear surface and it's the depth of the clear that makes it work. That's what it is. You're talking about a paint that actually has a thickness to it, whereas we don't want thickness on our models, so metallic paints are hard to use correctly because you need all the color baked into the one layer of paint that you put on. You can't build up 7 layers of wet sanded color and sink it under a bunch of clear to where what you're looking at is the metallic looks like it's underwater and gives you that really cool effect. So it's a totally different world for us in model painting than it is on other areas where metallic would be used. So it's a unique situation. But I love mica for model paint. I have to say, the first time using the expert acrylic line you love. Thanks for the help. Post a picture. Awesome, Shadow. Nice. Yeah, it's great stuff. Absolutely great stuff. I've been having a blast with it. We've been painting Whiplash Willie with it. This is 100% just the expert acrylics and then a little bit of OneStep filter over the top because I was showing you advanced uses of OneStep as an overall filter, and it's great. It's just too easy to use and mix, and you get so stuck into not needing to worry about color. You're looking at 5 colors that you've turned the whole model into a million out of it. Boshek, you honestly don't know, but what are the expert acrylics and who or what are they for? They're for everybody, and they're amazing. They are the font of life for ProAcryl. They are basically, I like to think of them as medium body paints. Not really a thing, but let's say it's a thing, right? So heavy body acrylics are meant to be a super thick paste that has the most pigment load you can put into it and will give you just the most saturation of color you can get in a tube, right? So they compete with oils, and they're not going to peak like an oil, so you're not going to get the brush texture necessarily, but more so than any other acrylics. Then you have soft body acrylics, and soft body acrylics have a creamier application, so smoother to paint with than a heavy body. A little bit less pigmentation to them, so they're not quite as saturated, but still more so than liquid acrylics. These are in between those. They're not so thick that you can't paint chainmail with them because we needed to make sure they worked for 3-dimensional objects at scale like we do. So they're not going to clog the details of your model, but they're going to be buttery smooth and going to have the high saturation of color like a heavy body would. So they're just kind of a miracle in a tube to give you coloration like you wouldn't believe. Why would you use them over the liquids? Because as you start to grow your techniques, these give you the ability to do things like glazes and filters where you don't lose color as you dilute it because they're already less opaque, right? So I picked up an opaque one because Dalo turquoise is opaque. Let's grab one that isn't. Right, so we've got like semi-opaque in the burnt sienna, right? You've got transparent in things like sap green, right? And so when you're being able to have that amount of pigment, think our transparent paints. Our transparent paints are just the liquid versions of these. But now you have a color that has ultimate saturation of pigment in it, but you can already see through, so you can glaze with it, layer with it, blend with it, do everything you want to. It's just for those people that feel very comfortable in that traditional art world. These are the paints that really bring painting alive. I love them because they let me play again. You know, we do it with liquid acrylic too, but. You make a white, right? Yeah. What do you mean you couldn't find a white? In the expert acrylics?
I'll link it to you right now.
Probably sold out. Our titanium white is our fastest selling color across retailers and wholesalers and everything. But we have a pure titanium white.
And this is the expert acrylic one.
Out of stock, yeah. If it's expert acrylic, it's titanium white. It's one of the most called for paints on the planet. Both that and our liquid acrylic. That's if there's one thing we're known for more than anything else is our bold titanium white. This is the first paint we made. It was the thing that led us to the Monument Hobbies company because whites in the hobby always suck. So we made an artist grade titanium white in a liquid form that actually airbrushes well, glazes well, does everything you want it to do. It was the pride and joy of what we did. Jen and I used to mix it at home in our kitchen. And we couldn't keep enough of it in stock, so we had to make more colors. So that's where the whole line started from. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly, Vite. Yeah. Well, everybody, thank you so much. Great question and answer session today. Really hope we got to a lot of your stuff and that you were able to get some good answers from us. As always, if we missed a question during the chat, a lot of times we get rolled up in a demo or talking about one thing and we might miss some other questions. If we did, don't worry. Always come back the next stream, which will be Monday, or feel free to join our Discord. Chris just threw the links up in chat there. Make sure to join the Discord. And that community is open 24 hours a day, really all across the world. So you can always ask and you get direct links to us here at Monument Hobbies, as well as a community of nearly 7,000 artists that are truly great inspiration. All the people here in chat, as well as a ton of people that don't get to make the stream every day. We have one of the best communities you'll ever be a part of. Great friendships are made there. Great painting advice. Great showing off of what you do. Just great camaraderie. We'd love to have you. So make sure to join in that. And make sure to check out monumenthobbies.com, monumenthobbies.eu, and the FLGS page. Make sure to support your local game and hobby supplier. We are in over 500 plus stores in the U.S., plus hundreds across the rest of the globe. We appreciate you supporting ProCurl. Thank you so much. It allows us to do this and have a lot of fun with you every day. So remember, we do this 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, Monument Standard Time here in Phoenix, Arizona. We'd love to see you back. So hit the follow or the subscribe button, whatever you're watching us on. We simulcast to Twitch, Kick, and YouTube every day. So we'd love to see you back. Next time we'll be on, it'll be Monday. And we'd love to see you back here. So have a wonderful weekend. Stick around. Chris is going to find us somebody to raid. Hopefully some more hobby goodness as you go off into your Friday night. Don't do anything we wouldn't do. And we'll catch you back here on Monday. Adios, gang.